Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another album review / reaction here on the channel. And I'm so excited to be joined by my friend, Chris Parker.
That's me. Am I over there?
You're on my side. You're over here, yeah. And also, normally I point like parallel with my table, but I'd be like, you're back here. whatever. Stupid way to start the video, but who cares? Today we are going to be doing something that I normally I'm all like at the beginning of every video, I'm like, I've been so looking forward to doing this. I haven't been looking forward.
Lies.
No, generally it's not a lie. It's actually, it's never a lie. But sometimes we do the rare reaction where it's something that kind of either creeps up on me or I was unaware of it and we sort of spontaneously do it. And I love those reactions because you never know what you're going to get. You know, generally I'm the type of person that likes to plan how everything's going to go in my head. And then the moment we start and everything goes off the rails, I'm like, well, all that thinking was for nothing. Mm-hmm. But we reacted a couple of months ago, Chris, to the song Portable Door when Deep Purple released it, I think is their first single off of this album. So the album we're going to be doing in this video is their new album that came out a couple weeks ago called Equals One. And we both enjoyed Portable Door enough that we wanted to do this. And I'll just say right up front, off the bat here, neither Chris nor I know really anything about Deep Purple.
Yeah, I was going to say it. I think the reactions that I tend to like the most are the ones where neither of us have any investment in the band. Like,
yes.
Neither of us are Deep Purple fans. I've heard Smoke on the Water, and that's pretty much it. And we were just really surprised by how good Portable Door was, that it's like, yeah, let's listen to that whole album.
Mm-hmm. So in this video, if you're new here, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about Deep Purple at the beginning, although I just said we don't know anything about them. So mainly that's going to be relegated to me showing off the one Deep Purple CD that I have that I did talk about a little bit more extensively in our Portable Door song reaction. And we also did react to the music video in that as well. But I also want to go through and read some of the comments from that video, Chris, because I was looking at them earlier today, and I think some of them have some really nice information for us about Deep Purple that I think it would be nice to kind of go over before we do that. So we'll do that at the very beginning of the video here. And then we're going to listen through the entire album. And what we'll do, because generally when I do a reaction myself, I listen to the entire thing from front to back without pausing. But in this video, we're going to listen to each song and we're going to pause and we're going to talk about it. But we're also going to be talking over the music as well. So just prepare yourself for that music video watcher, because sometimes people get really mad at us about that, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. So we'll be talking over the music a little bit, then we're going to kind of discuss the song, and then we'll go song by song through the whole album, and then we'll sort of give our overall thoughts at the end. Generally, I find when I record with someone else, like Chris, that we talk a lot during the album and in between the songs, then we don't have that much really left to say at the end, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. So I will have timestamps in the description, and you'll be able to see on the timeline of the video if you scroll around or hover your mouse or whatever, you'll be able to see all the different songs and everything, so you can go to whatever section of the video you want to. I also want to say we have a Discord channel that we're trying to grow, so I'll put a link to our Discord channel in the description of the video as well. And in the past, when I've said that, people are like, what's the Discord channel for? And that's a good question. Chris, what would you say the Discord is really for?
I don't know. It could be, it seems to be mostly like we use it for polls to decide on what songs to react to. We use, a bunch of people go and tag us at 3 a.m. telling us things that we don't care about. And no, I'm just joking.
We care about
honestly,
just a little bit.
What's that?
I said we care just a little bit.
Right. No, yeah, we care. And ultimately, just like, building a community. There's a bunch of people that are like mainstays for all the videos now, and they are in the Discord chatting about things. And we have a lot of other ideas that will eventually come to the Discord.
Yeah, we don't release
we don't
release a ton of videos here on the channel. So Discord is kind of somewhere we can go and kind of interact with people that like the way we do our videos and that like our videos in between when we put out videos. And so I just kind of think of it as a way of like, building our community and all that, and just kind of hanging out with people. And I will say we've been growing this channel mainly based on our Metallica videos, which we started and did mostly last year. We listened to the entire Metallica discography from front to back. So if you're here and this is your first video that you're seeing of us, we don't generally tend to do classic rock stuff as much. I feel like we kind of focus more on modern heavy music. However, it's tough to even say that's true because the most recent videos on my channel are my Imagine Dragons reaction, and my One Republic reactions that just came out for their new albums that were both released over the last couple months. So we do all sorts of music on here, but we did a lot of Metallica.
I mean, honestly, if anything, it's so much more eclectic than I think just being a Metallica channel might have you believe.
Right.
So if you're here looking for one type of music, that will only get you so far, because it really is just about anything that comes up that's interesting.
Yeah, and we've got some really nice or some cool plans that hopefully come to fruition within the rest of the year, kind of. And if we do those, we're hoping to kind of grow the community a little bit here and there with certain different things, and try to bring some different types of people into the community as well. And so, yeah, check out the Discord if any of that sounds interesting. I know that was kind of confusing the way we worded all of that, but it's fine. It doesn't matter. I do have a Patreon that I'm in the process of getting started, but that's not up yet, so don't worry about that. Unless you're watching this in the future, in which case you can probably go check that out, but don't worry about that for now. Let's see, what else do we always say? Oh, if for some reason we upload this video and it gets copyright claim in it and I cannot include the music from it, I am so sorry, but that's probably what will happen. Hopefully, Deep Purple lets us use their music in the video. And I'm not going to go into the whole legal thing. Most people kind of understand that stuff by now, but almost every video I upload on the channel is supposed to have the music that we're listening to in the video in the video. And we try to listen to bands that allow us to use the music in the video, but then that music, how do I word it? For example, our Metallica videos, right? Metallica is awesome for many reasons, but one of the great reasons that I respect them for is they allow us to use all their music in all of our videos. And so every video that we have that has a Metallica song in it, they put ads in front of the video and they get all the ad revenue from all of those videos. So that's how that works. And that's how that works with all of the music that's in any of our videos. So we don't see any ad revenue from that at all. So if you do see ads on this video, you'll know that Deep Purple let us use the music and then they just put the ads in the video. So that's great. If you don't see ads in this video at the beginning of this video, then you can bet that they copyright claimed me and blocked the video worldwide, and I had to go back and edit the video without any music in it whatsoever. And if that's the case, you're just going to be listening to me breathe out of my nose the entire time while the songs are going. However, I will include a link in the description so that you can listen along with us on Spotify. And one good thing about us doing this remotely is that I will count down every single song. So if you have to start your own version of the song with us, which I know is cumbersome, but I promise you it's better doing that than just listening to us sit here, listen to the music without any music.
Right.
That link will be in the description as well. So one last thing that I want to do here before we get into Deep Purple is that sometimes, very rarely anymore on the channel, we do this sort of like show and tell type of thing. And so I'm just going to go through a couple of garage sale purchases that I've made over the last at this point, it's probably like a couple things like the last month or so. None of it's very crazy, and I'm not going to talk about everything in detail. I just want to show off a couple things because I think it's cool. And it has nothing to do with Deep Purple, or at least most of these don't. However, I do think Chris, you might find some of these interesting. So the first thing I want to go through just real quick, this is not from a garage sale, but this is a stack of comic books that I found in my house that I didn't remember ever purchasing or getting. But these are all from 2015. So at this point, these are, 9 years old.
Last year.
Well, yes. These are free comic book day from Hastings when I used to work at Hastings. And so there's some interesting things in here, and we don't have to go through all of them. Midnight Camp. This is just a cool looking one. Here's an Attack on Titan anthology.
Ooh. I like how it looks like a baby version. Like like when there was like Muppet Babies and stuff, that all that fad and Tiny Toons Kids and stuff. Like, here's the Attack on Titan Babies version.
Yep, it 1000% is a baby Titan, 100%. Have you watched that whole show yet, or?
All except season 4. So no.
Yeah, so I've seen the first. I think that the first 3 seasons. I don't remember. Here's Assassin's Creed comic book, which I think the Assassin's Creed comic books are much more popular now than they were 10 years ago. But this says 2016. It says 2015, but maybe whatever. It's free comic book day. This was the one I was most excited to see in there. I don't remember getting this at all, but this is Hilda, which for those of you who aren't aware of what Hilda is one of my absolute favorite properties ever. This is a little troll from Hilda. Hilda is a children's animated TV show, an animated children's TV show on Netflix. And I think it is absolutely gorgeous artwork with an amazing like color palette. That's not the Hilda. This is all Hilda stuff, just so you can see the color palette.
I've never heard of Hilda.
The music in it is phenomenal. It's based off of a series of books by Luke Pearson, and I absolutely adore the TV show. And the character of Hilda here is voiced by, let me try to think of her name. She's the girl that plays Ellie in The Last of Us.
Oh, sure.
And she also plays the Lady Mormont in Game of Thrones.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. She's the one that's, well, you've seen Game of Thrones.
Ashley? No,
Ashley Johnson's the voice actress of Ellie. So you were close.
What did I miss?
Ashley Johnson is the voice actress for Ellie from the games. I'm talking the actor that played Ellie in the TV shows.
Yes, that's right. That makes never mind.
I should have said that. Yep. No, what you were thinking correctly. I said she's voiced by the lady that plays Ellie, but she plays Ellie. She's voiced by the actress that plays Ellie in the live action
show. Okay.
Last of Us, which
Whose
I can't.
I forget.
Think of her name, and it's embarrassing. I can't because I love that TV show, and she's great as an actress. But anyway, Hilda's fantastic. It's a Netflix show, so if you have Netflix, you should watch Hilda. And I honestly, no matter how old you are, I think Hilda it's phenomenal. Science comics, superhero girls, Legend of Korra, a Sonic sampler.
Go back to that Korra one.
Yeah, I never got into Korra because I never got into Avatar.
I've never seen a second of Avatar, and Korra's fantastic.
Really?
I really like Korra a lot, yeah.
Interesting. I just know that it's like a sequel series to Avatar, right?
Mm-hmm. It is a sequel series, but it's separate enough. It's like,
are they
hundreds of years later or whatever.
Are they showing up at your house because they heard someone's never watched Avatar?
Here they come. It's separate enough that they reference Avatar, and I would say maybe once in a while you aren't quite in on whatever they're talking about as a result, but it is like overwhelmingly self-contained, so it is. You can totally watch it.
Yeah, I'm one of those weird people that just like I have avoided all of those. Like I know Avatar's not was it a Cartoon Network show?
Yes.
I know it's not technically I think of it in this along the same. I know it's not.
It might be Nickelodeon.
I think you're right. But I know Avatar is not this. But bear with me, people. Okay, just hold on one second. I think of Avatar the same way I think of Dragon Ball Z and Naruto. Okay, they're two extremely massive, popular animes. That I'm not going to watch because they're extremely popular. Okay, right. I like to watch real anime. Okay, not this baby anime. Okay, so I don't need to watch Avatar.
See, and I know almost fine.
No, I added that. I added that at the end to be snarky, but yeah, I've heard so many people talk about Avatar over the years. Like almost every reaction channel that I watch that does TV shows has done Avatar, and I'm always like, oh. They're watching Avatar. This will take a whole year. Now I can't. I might as well unsubscribe to this channel because it's going to take them forever. So anyway, those are the comic books. Then we have 2 actual books that I bought. This is an awesome coffee table book about Blondie. It's just
contains no words.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It's just pictures. And it's very neat, and it's just sort of documenting the band's run through in the 80s, in the late 70s. Oh yeah, it says unseen photos from 1976 through 1980. So late 70s, I guess. So that's cool. And along with that, at the same garage sale, that was $1, and this is $1 as well. And this is what I was most excited about. This is Radio Silence, a selected visual history of American hardcore music.
Huh.
Yeah, I saw this.
You can really just make a book about anything, man.
You absolutely can.
That is the most drilled down specific thing.
Yeah, and it is like, hold on, I can't, I got to remember that I can't fit everything on screen. It is so, I should be careful because there's absolutely boobs and stuff in this because, it's American hardcore music.
Right.
And there's a lot of t-shirt images with lots of swear words on it. The back of the book, though, is actually literally just a compendium of t-shirts that bands printed.
That's cool.
Yes, and then
really cool, actually.
Album covers.
Very cool.
Yes. It's actually like super neat. And it goes back to the beginnings and then goes all the way through like 2000s, but it talks about fashion. It talks about there's a Minor Threat jacket, homemade Minor Threat jacket. And the most interesting thing about this book is this part where they completely wasted ad revenue on a blue page. Not ad revenue.
Yeah.
Page surface revenue, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why the hell did they do that? If you're going to do this, if you're going to make a book like this, put a cool color picture here.
Yeah. Real estate, I think is the word you're looking for.
Real estate, not app.
Right.
And they did it in the back too. Why? But anyway, so that's really cool.
So you can have all your classmates sign it at the end of the year.
Yeah. all your American hardcore bands, hardcore bands that you. So this, I thought I bought this because I thought it was cool, but I also thought, hey, there's a chance that this is worth something. Maybe $40-$50 book.
When was that printed?
20. I want to say like 2015, 16.
Okay. That's
You know what? I don't even know.
Doesn't matter.
But you can go buy this on eBay for like less than $10. So if this is something that you would be interested in, being a fan of Deep Purple, this... Well, I know.
It's just a funny little way to bring it back.
Deep Purple started heavy music, according to some of the comments we got in our last video, even before Black Sabbath. So, or maybe around the same time, but contemporaries of Black Sabbath. So if this is something that you think would be your jam and you've never heard of this, it's Radio Silence: A Selected Visual History of American Hardcore Music by Nathan Nedorostek and Anthony Papalardo, and I'll zoom in on the names here. And it is not very expensive online. And it's definitely worth $10. And definitely worth the $1 that I spent on it. Okay, one more thing that I have. That's a stack of things, because I lie every time I open my mouth. Here's some records that I bought. This is probably...
It's like nachos. It's like, all these nachos are stuck together. This is one nacho.
It's a pair of pants. It's a pant. I hate it when I watch... You know what? I'm not even going to get into that. But the phrase pant really pisses me off. They're pants, always. I don't care what you're talking about.
Who's saying, who is referring to them as pant? Like there's pant leg.
The people who sell them on QVC
will refer to a pair of pants as a pant.
Look at this beautiful pant. And it's two of them. Because they'll have multiple of them up there, and they'll be like, "This is the most comfortable pant you're going to wear this summer." And I'll be like, "I'm going to smack you in the face." I think
grammatically that sentence is acceptable.
I know it sounded less egregious when I said it in that context.
But the first one, I don't accept. I don't accept the first one.
I don't.
Look at this lovely pant.
No one should.
No.
Yes, no one should ever say pant, in my opinion. So this is John Entwistle with Whistle Rhymes. And this is a really awesome just vinyl record that I think it's a gatefold. That is a sort of 60s psychedelic rock type of thing, late 70s, 60s. I'm not sure the exact year. And
how lost to time is everything that you're holding right there?
No, people know it. You can listen to it all on Spotify. Go look up John Entwistle. Here is the Moody Blues.
Yep, that one I'm aware of.
Yeah.
At least the band.
And this one, actually, this is one of the cool, this is a cool gatefold that opens vertically. So.
Oh, neat. I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's
but
awesome.
I do not interact with vinyl.
Yeah, I wish I had a way to display vinyls like that. I have a couple that are really cool like that. Here's one that I bought. Actually, this is a brand new one that I just bought off of eBay because it was on sale for $4. Free shipping. So this is Samael. It's a Swedish electronic metal band. And this is their album from 2002 called Era 1 by Samael from Sweden. I think they're Sweden. They might be German, but I think they're Sweden.
Do you know anything about that, or did you just buy it because it's cool?
No, I do. I like Samael. I have several of their albums. They have a song. Their album after this is called Passage, and it was like, or no, Rain of Light. It's called Rain of Light. Passage was their album before this, and they are. You would hate it. You would hate it, but I think you would probably like it more than other stuff I've shown you that I like. So it's very cool electronic stuff. And then they mix it with a guy that just... You wouldn't like the vocals.
I believe that.
This is the band Quicksilver. I have to look on the spine because here's the band name, dummy. Here's the band Quicksilver. But the band is actually called the Quicksilver Messenger Service. It says over here. And
what's that hole for?
That's not supposed to be there. That's just you know how you never worked at a record store, I don't think, right?
No, but I have bought a CD or two occasionally with like a hole in the case.
In the barcode, but usually in the barcode.
Oh, I see.
It's supposed to be to prevent people from scanning that barcode, so you only scan that barcode. But also, when record labels would send out promotional materials, they would stamp a hole through the packaging somewhere, or on a CD, just like take and saw the side of the CD a little. If you've ever had a CD with like a slit, basically.
That's interesting.
In the side of it, yeah, that's just that means it's promotional material.
So, and you only get to hear it for the first half of the last song.
Well, on vinyl records, that can be kind of a bummer. But in this case, where this is placed, it doesn't affect the vinyl record. But that was a good catch, though, to see the hole there.
All right.
I know. I'm 5 years old.
Did that for so long,
5 years old. And then I bought 3 Gary Lewis and the Playboys albums, which I don't have any of their albums, and these are in really good shape. So everybody,
Gary Lewis.
Everybody loves a clown.
Everybody loves Gary Lewis.
Mm-hmm. Are you being facetious?
I don't know who that is, man.
You absolutely do know Gary Lewis. There's been multiple biopic movies made of these guys and everything. Trust me.
Okay.
They're the guys that go, "May lightning strike me again." Lightning. Nope. Yeah, you know it. And you also know This Diamond Ring, Needles and Pins, Love Potion number 9.
That one I know, yeah.
And that's just this album. they have like 40,000 albums, but you definitely know Gary Lewis and the Playboys.
Okay.
And they're very famous. And the guy, I think they were kind of. On one hand, I hate his voice because it is so shrill, but on another hand, I respect him for committing to that. And on the other hand, I think that it's amazing that it got as popular as it did. So
that's 3 hands. You need another person.
So that's all my stuff I had here. But you had something cool you wanted to show off at the beginning of the video as well.
Yes. So try to make this quick. A buddy of mine, ever since I started 3D printing about 1.5 years ago, I have thought about how cool it would be to make, design and print speakers. And I did just recently do that. I have an unused set of Edifier desktop speakers that I was like, I'll just take the drivers out and then I'll measure the box and then I'll just replicate the box in 3D model so that I can work on printing speakers. And then I can use that as kind of like a base for making more. And so I've done that. And then a buddy of mine was telling me about how in college he took some classes on speaker design, and I had talked to him a couple of times over the last several months about like making speakers together because I can make them and he can design them. And then last week he sent me a design that he had sort of mocked up on paper in college for speakers that you could grow plants out of, fill with dirt and grow plants out of. Mm-hmm. And so he sent it to me, and it was like round and some other stuff, pretty cool. But I was like, I think I could adapt this to the speaker model that I already have pretty easily. Mm-hmm. And so I did. And this is the first prototype print of it. Did just that. And then this here it's still dripping water, which is really frustrating. This is a sealed housing that the speakers live inside of. Mm-hmm. And then this thing at the bottom is the channel that the speaker wire runs through, as you can see through there. Mm-hmm. Am I going to be able to make light come through that? Doesn't matter. But with the original box, it has right here, this is a port, low end port, and this didn't have one. And so I made one using these two slits here. Mm-hmm. But because this back plate is so close to the front, this was just like hardcore reflection city. Mm-hmm. So there's no low end whatsoever. And it's all bouncing off of this back plate out these ports. And it sounds like garbage. And so I made some changes to the design where I just printed out that center, chamber, mm-hmm. because it's sealed anyway. And I took all the ports out. So this is just a solid sealed speaker. It is not technically fully sealed because it still has the channel in the bottom. No, it doesn't. But it does have holes for the wires. So mm-hmm. if you want to talk like, airtight, it's technically not, but that's fine. And this sounds considerably better than the one with the ports did. So this is ready. That, proof of concept there. And as of earlier today, I was testing how waterproof this box is. The bottom has, which you can't see here, sort of, the bottom has drainage holes. So technically it doesn't need to hold water, but I wanted to test and see how well it would anyway. Mm-hmm. But I was trying to figure out like, how do I plug those holes so that I can fill this with water without like ruining the reason that I'm doing the experiment in the first place. Like if I filled it with a bag or something, it's like, well, that's not going to do any good for the rest of it. Mm-hmm. And so I heat welded another piece of an old 3D print scrap onto the bottom. And I was trying to get it to hold water so that I could test it. And it mostly does. It's still dripping, and it's still dripping even. But I am pretty confident that it'll work. The most important piece of that was getting the ports removed so that it sounds much better.
Yeah.
And like I said, it doesn't need to hold water, it just needs to hold dirt. I just wanted to see if it was in fact watertight, because technically PLA is not supposed to be watertight, but I've had pretty good luck with it on other things. So as of right now, I just need to print out another big box with the new port design on it, and it'll be mostly done. And then I can finalize it and make a couple of really nice versions and stuff. But
that's awesome.
I've been working on
once you get that done, we will definitely show that off in a video here at some point.
And I have actually been recording the different, I put my H4 in up to the front and recorded part of a song on the normal speaker. And then I did the same part of that song on the first speaker, and then that same part of the song on the third one. So now, to sort of ABC mm-hmm. the way that they sound to send to my friend so that he, if he had any input on how to change various what's in this and that, and just to give him a progress update. And that's actually working really well to be able to tell the difference between the three speakers.
That's interesting.
So, yeah. So once I finish off the last port, or the last print that has no ports and is totally done, I'll do another recording and we'll see how much different it is from number 3, having the whole box attached to it, especially to see whether or not filling it with dirt has a notable effect on how it sounds in general. And I might make some changes to the infill properties and the walls and stuff on the final print to make it look nicer, but it'll be interesting to see how it has changed over time.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it when it's done. Do you have any idea what kind of plant you want to put in there? Try to put in there?
No, I don't. I would love it if it. I don't know. I mean, they're all the same. Like, I don't know.
That is so not true.
I'm not much of a plant person, so I don't really have an answer to that.
I love you come out and you show it to us, and it's got like a pine tree plant, a little pine tree plant in there. Like, okay. Or you get some bonsai tree.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be really cool.
Fern, so it looks kind of like hair. Or, I've got some
something that hang over. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some bell peppers out front that I'm growing. I could put one of those plants in there and grow food out of it.
I mean, you could. The most obvious thing to put in there would be some kind of like succulent plant thing, which are the ones, that like these types things, like these type of deals.
Yeah,
because they're just made for that kind of thing, and you can put them pretty much anywhere, and you barely have to water them at all. So.
And this box is pretty big, so I would probably want to, at the very least, use a plant that I think could take advantage of how much room there is in there for it.
Oh, for sure.
You'll probably get pretty good size.
Yeah. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see what you decide to do with that. So if that's not a reason to subscribe, I don't know what is. Certainly nothing about Deep Purple, which we haven't discussed for the last 20 minutes. But that's okay. So let's Deep Purple it up. Hey,
I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. 1 second.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so before we get started on our Deep Purple talk, I've got a Lemonade Prime. Merry Christmas. Hold on, what is that? Do you hear that? It's like an electronic, like sound. No. It did it while you were gone, and it just did it again. And I was assuming that it was some weird thing happened when you were gone. If it happens again, I'll point it out, and I'll see if my computer is catching it. Say something real quick. No, yeah, you're fine. All right. Okay, so Deep Purple, Machine Head from 1974 is not the album we're going to be listening to, but I just wanted to point out this is the 50-year. It did it again. It did again, Chris.
I hear nothing.
You didn't hear anything there? Oh boy, if that happens again, we'll have to.
What if it's picking up in the recording? That'd be pretty cool.
That would be really weird. But this is the 2024 is the 50-year anniversary of the release of this album. Machine Head by Deep Purple, and this is their album with Smoke on the Water on it. So Smoke on the Water is 50 years old. And the only other Deep Purple album I have is their album from 2013. And this is you said this symbol is called something?
Yes, it's called an Interrobang.
Yeah, this is their album called Interrobang, apparently. And it's a really cool set. I have the deluxe edition that came from Best Buy. It's gold plated. Obviously, it's not.
Yeah, presumably it's called Interrobang because otherwise, how do you refer to it,
Question mark, exclamation point?
Nope.
So it's got basically the entire, the new album that came out at the time, Interrobang. And it's got, along with it, an entire live DVD that I've never watched.
Huh.
The Now What live tapes. And I think it's them sort of performing songs from the album on tour and maybe in the studio. So it's and some of the songs, like Smoke on the Water is on here as well, and maybe some of their older songs as well. So now, along with that, I want to just go through and read some of the comments, Chris, on our last Deep Purple video that we did.
Yeah.
Because I was reading them earlier, like I said, and I think that there's some really good information there. Okay, so we had Deep Purple is. Have you read any of the comments from this video, Chris?
I have not.
Okay, so Deep Purple is actually Lars Ulrich's favorite band, and he actually introduced them into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, inducted them.
That's cool.
Then it says. This is the comment from Distortion 360 at Distortion 360. Deep Purple's family tree is huge. Dio, Sabbath, Whitesnake, just to name a few. Dream Theater, Opeth, and Metallica have all done notable covers of their music. And it says Machine Head, which is this album back here, which is glaring. Son of a gun.
Very nice.
Machine Head is a must-listen album in its entirety. Every line, and then it says every lineup this band has had has something great to offer. And that's something else I want to focus on here with these comments. A lot of people mentioned that there have been different iterations of this band, and they said that the version of the band that is on Machine Head is what they referred to as Deep Purple Mark II. And the version that we're on now is a Deep Purple Mark VII. And in this current lineup of Deep Purple that we're going to listen to with equals one, there are 3 members that played on Machine Head. Okay?
Sure.
So that makes sense? Okay, so let's see here. This says this album, this new one, was produced by Bob Ezrin, and they recorded it live in the studio. Now, you and I know that can mean many different things, but that's what this comment says. So we'll take that and run with that as we listen. This says this was my at Gaga Dreams says this was my dad's favorite band. Him playing them for me is the reason I'm even into metal today. So that's really awesome. It says. Now here's someone that actually wrote a little bit of a review of the album we're going to be listening to now.
Oh, cool.
So this is just from 13 days ago, like I think the weekend after this album came out. So do you want me to read that or not?
Let's wait.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, you've read it though, I guess. So.
I did read it. It says this person said, and to think that the whole album turned out to be even better than this song, which the song we listened to again was Portable Door.
That's exciting.
Heavy guitars, heavy organ, 70s sound, it's all there. It says Deep Purple on... Okay, now this says Deep Purple on their Mark 9 era. So this says Mark 9. So maybe the other person in the other comment is I don't know. Is hitting on all cylinders along with, at last, perfect bandmates that all contribute to the classic Deep Purple sound while respecting their myth. Something that they didn't do for 30 plus years now. Huh. It says nobody managed that at this age nobody manages something like that at this age with perhaps Judas Priest, with the exception of Judas Priest. Hmm. Insanely enough, most of these songs could fit on their legendary albums. Can't stop listening to it after like a week or so. So glad these gods didn't call it a career as it was rumored. So glad they found each other again. So it looks like Deep Purple was going to call it quits at some point and they decided to keep going. Deep Purple is one of my favorite bands. You should definitely check out more of their stuff. Respect to them for still going strong. I can't complain about them getting old anymore. So maybe some people were feeling like the music, the technical musicianship was going down over the last few years. I really enjoyed this album from 2013, which is probably only 1 or 2 albums ago from this new album. So I thought that it was really neat. And then our old friend Team Wolfie Soupy from our Discord channel and a lot of our YouTube comments, he said, if you remember, Chris, in that in the video where we listened to Purple Door or Portable Door, I was talking about how on this album there's like a creepy Halloween vibe in several of the songs. He said that creepy Halloween aesthetic that you mentioned really only started on this album, which actually I see now is actually called Now What? Not Interrobang. Oh boy, I'm so dumb.
Dang.
It says this person is saying they never really made that connection before, but that they think I'm right, that they does have a bit more. And it says I think it's because their keyboardist at the time might have been incorporating some of their own new ideas, and they don't really think that their earlier music was like that. It says they've always used a lot of organs, but their original organ player, whose name was John Lord, ran his organ through a Marshall amp to make it sound heavier and to compete with the guitar. So remember, we were talking that there was guitar on one side and it was being balanced by organ on the other side when we were listening to Portable Door, and that was something we both commented on as being really cool. It says Richie Blackmore, their original guitarist who also formed the band Rainbow, and Lord would always have moments where they would do a solo off for a while in the middle of a song, especially live. Because we heard there was an organ solo or a keyboard solo in the Portable Door song. So As for the product, this is where it gets really interesting, and this is the last comment we're going to talk about. As for the production, they've pretty much sounded really good since Machine Head, which is 1974, as I mentioned, I believe.
Isn't their first album?
No, it's not their first album. They had some albums in the 60s. It says, as for the production, they've pretty much sounded really good since Machine Head, except for the 80s, which is especially weird considering that none of their albums were big productions. It's usually just them and one or two other guys. For a basically self-produced album from 1972 with a ton of complications in the recording process, Machine Head sounds really good even today. So if it is from 1972, then it's 52 years old, so whatever. Machine Head sounds really good even today, in my opinion. I'd like to know what you guys think of it. So, hold on. Then it says something about something you said. Also, because Chris mentioned the drumming looking like it's fake in the video, he says it's always looked like that. If you go back all the way to the 1970s, which the only guy in Deep Purple now that's been in Deep Purple the entire time is their drummer.
Not even the lead singer?
I don't think so. I think they've changed lead singers a few times. But I think the guy that is their lead singer now, and you guys can correct us in the comments, is the guy that was their lead singer on like Smoke on the Water.
Okay.
I think.
So is it like a Sid
He
Barrett
might have
situation?
died. Maybe their original singer actually died, now that I'm thinking about it. But it said when they would go on TV shows and stuff and he would be asked to mime performances, he could never do it. And it basically looked like he was doing a solo during the entire time. And he said during videos and stuff, he would play like double bass and basically look like he's doing solos because he just can't mime playing the guitar, the drums at all. And it says he recently acknowledged it and said he couldn't mime to save his life. It makes sense considering they probably only made like 3 music videos their entire career. And that was because you were commenting like that it didn't look like he was actually playing what the song was.
I don't even, was it that or just the fact that he was just like, he was like barely moving. Like it just wasn't hitting anything.
I think it was partly that. And also just, we were like, really? That's what he's doing. And so Team Wolfie Soupy had to actually mention it and call it out and be like, no, this is just how this band has been. It's part of the lore of the band that the guy like famously can't mime. Oh, this is a slushy. All right. Everybody, are you ready for us to stop talking? Are you ready for us to listen to Equals 1?
Are you ready for us to change what we're talking about?
Yeah. All right. That's true because we will keep talking. All right. So track 1, Show Me. You ready, Chris?
Yeah.
In 3, 2, 1. Ooh, I love that keyboard part. That that synth wave.
Yeah, blink, blink, blink.
It's very subtle. Square wave, I meant. Oh, yeah.
This seemed quiet.
It's definitely not sitting on top of the mix.
I just mean the whole song. Like, it seems quieter than if I were to fire up a different band at the same volume.
Oh, it could be. You just got to turn it up, I guess.
Yep, which is
fine. Ooh, bass there. Nice bass run.
Yeah. It's very pleasant.
Yeah. Well, normally we listen to more aggressive stuff.
Right.
You know, we don't listen to a lot of a classic rock, and this sounds like a classic rock album.
Okay. Classic rock is something I engage with probably less than any other type of music I listen to.
Yeah.
There's some Pink Floyd in that.
Yeah.
just the organ and the long drawn out vocals.
Yeah.
Love that. So good. Just like the credits to Sonic 3.
Yes. Yep. It's that square wave sound.
Yeah. FM synth.
Yes. Yeah. Double it up.
And this is the point where they would shoot a giant beam out of both of their instruments that came together in the
middle. Oh no, they crossed beams.
Exactly.
Ooh, I love the closed hi-hat here. In the beginning of this song, I think it was there too.
There's a nice low.
Yeah,
that just kind of hanging out underneath.
That beef. I love the layers of synths, the layers of keyboards.
And that beef is so good. It's like it almost exists in a vacuum. Like there's nothing about the mix that makes it too much.
Yeah. So basically, that was exactly what I expected it to be. You know, I really remember with Portable Door, I remember the thing we just kept coming back to was this sounds so intentionally like of the time that they're trying to evoke, which is interesting because they are a band from that time. So they're not really trying. They're obviously not trying to be like throwback. You know, they are pure that.
They just didn't change the thing they were doing.
Yeah. And I remember us talking about like they probably are using some old gear. You know, they're probably recording it at a studio with older gear and stuff. And it just sounds really good. Like
it does.
You know, and I think at the beginning there you kind of mentioned it too. Like it felt pleasant, I think is the word you said. Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Because I was trying to figure out like what is it that I am feeling as a result of how this sounds. And it's just nice. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons for that is because so much of what we listen to nowadays is significantly more processed. And I'm not saying that in a negative way.
Right.
You and I both really like modern metal and the way it sounds. And but there is just something nice about a nice round sound. You know, and the guitars, you know, our other Chris was mentioned this in our last thing we recorded, which was Megadeth. He was talking about how James from Metallica has said that the best way to get the best sounding guitars is to record lots of guitars that aren't too distorted. And there was distortion on a lot, which in that song there wasn't a lot of guitars in there. But the guitars that we did here did not have the distortion turned up to 11, right?
No.
It was crunchy. It wasn't overblown sounding. It wasn't manufactured sounding like so many like heavy things are nowadays. It just sounded like a classic rock guitar tone. And that's kind of what drives for me the core of what we're hearing. When I say classic rock, it's like the tone of the guitar really is what's doing it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a certain simplicity to the classic rock element of it that makes it like you can do so much with the production in terms of giving everything the space it deserves and just making it really, really nice to listen to. And you can hear all of the elements and everything when it's simple, because you don't have to try to like even having something that's like metal or like even Nightwish or something. The more elements you pack into it, the better you have to be at figuring out how to separate them all from each other. And there is only so much you can do. And having this kind of simple mix of just like the four things and not a lot of distortion, not a lot of, processing at all. You can just really spread them out and take advantage of like how good newer techniques are at making space for different sounds.
Yeah, and I think the vocals really feel very I was going to say untouched, but I don't think that's right. Because there was reverb, there is delays, there are classic, effects like that. Yeah. But it's not overprocessed. I wouldn't be surprised if there really wasn't even any pitch correction or whatever on this. Mm-hmm. His voice is kind of naturally warbly. And in that particular song, there were moments where, to me, it did kind of sound like old man trying to sing.
I was going to say he's got old man voice,
and I don't say that necessarily bad. I think
right. You love Leonard Cohen, like what are you? I do love to do?
Yes, and so like there's like I don't want to say quaint exactly, but there is sort of like a. This is such a touchy word for Chris Schoenberg, but he's not here, so I'll use it. There's like a raw quality to that as well.
I think that's true. I think that like all of the processing, everything else, like whatever's happening to this music, the wet knob is turned up to like maybe 15%. Mm-hmm. Like, or the equivalent of that, where it's like it exists, but only just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the recording is so nice and they don't want anything special happening to it. So they just, are just the dusting.
Mm-hmm. And also the focus of the song is the instruments and not the sprinkles around it, like I always talk about. It's just it's just like a core focus on the band doing what it's doing. And I guess in that regard, they are kind of like Metallica, right? Like it is that. But I do really like this because they do have that added element I mentioned of the extra layers of synths during the chorus, and they're.
It's almost like if you were to listen to them play live in a scenario where you could magically eliminate the element of how the room makes the instruments sound. Like if sound actually traveled and worked in a vacuum, it would sound like this when they play live. Like it's just
like an album that was recorded live in the studio.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, which is how they said it was recorded. So,
right.
So I was just going to say, let's listen to the next song, and then I want to get into a little bit about how I think it probably was recorded. Okay. So this is a bit on the side. In 3, 2, 1. That bass.
Oh, double bass. Go with it, yeah. A little tri-gun action there.
So now we're also getting guitar on both sides a little bit. Mm-hmm. Organ on the left.
Whatever's going on the left is really interesting. It's inconsistent. I think there was one drum over there that was just kept getting hit.
Yeah. Tom, probably.
Yeah.
The drums are focused primarily in the middle. I know I mentioned when we listened to Portable Door that there was some ZZ Top in there as well. Mm-hmm. And I would say ZZ Top is probably one of the only bands that is of this era that I am familiar sort of with.
Sure.
Though I like their more recent stuff a lot more than their earlier stuff. But
do you hear that?
Yes, on the side.
Yeah, it's odd.
Yeah, it is weird.
Hey.
Oh, cool.
He's back.
And that was a cool note to go to in the vocals. Where the bridge is, yeah.
Yeah, Mega Man boss stage music.
Nice drums.
is so strange.
It made me pause to consider, Charlene. You may not be much different to me.
You know what I think it was? It was a low organ note, and he was doing this on the organ. That would be my guess, maybe. Because it wasn't happening just there.
Right. It does. It happens rarely.
Yeah. Oh god, just something's going into a solo is just like my favorite part of anything. Just like that lead into the solo.
Yeah.
When we would record solos, I would always make Chris do like a lead into it, and he used to get so mad at me. I'm not doing that same bend anymore, Patrick. I'm not doing it.
Wrong.
I'm like, well, it's my song, so. Awesome. So, yeah. So, I think this is going to be really silly, but I think I'm going to just very simply explain how I think they recorded this, and then you're going to be like, well, that's how all albums are recorded. So, we'll see what you think of this. I think the way that they recorded this is everybody got together in the studio, and they they had everything isolated. Maybe they didn't necessarily have to do this, but I'm assuming they did, at least with the drums and probably with the cabinets for the different instruments too. So I would guess most everything was isolated. But you can do this in such a way that you can still have the performers together in the same room. I've done that before when I used to work at the recording studio. So you have the drums in the big studio, right? Set up, you have all the microphones, everything, and then the drummer performs in there. Then you have the guitar player and the bass player, and you could even have the keyboards in there as well, because the keyboards are probably just plugged direct in, so there would be no bleed from any keyboard. Mm-hmm. So you also have the keyboards, so the keyboard player and his instrument in the room as well with the drums, right? Then you also have the bass player and the guitar player in that room as well with their instruments, but the sound from their instruments is all coming into their headphones from microphones in cabinets in separate rooms. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that what they did was they played every song, doing every instrument all the way through the song. Like the keyboard player and the guitar player played, they practiced the song, wrote the songs, practiced the songs, went into the studio and basically performed the songs the way they would perform them live, essentially. And then they were just like, let me try this extra keyboard part during the chorus. Let me try this to overdub this guitar part for here to make it a little chunkier. And that's how they built the album, right? Now, is that any different than really how anybody records an album? In some ways, yes, but in other ways, no. In my head, the part of that that's interesting, and that I guess I'd like to talk about a little bit with you, is the idea of being able to perform the song all the way through and then just choosing what parts you want to go in and add after the fact. You know what I mean? So
for what?
So the key, well, right, exactly. What did they add? So the keyboard player.
Add to what? What are they adding it to? The song?
Yeah. The part, the instrumentation, right? So
they play it. So everybody plays their part.
Yep. You have your guitar, bass, drums, vocals, and keyboard. The whole song. And I'm not saying that they played in the entirety of the song. The guitar player might be like, okay, during this verse, I don't play, so I'll just stand here, right? Mm-hmm. But they perform the songs, Then it's the brain trust part where you like, okay, what do we add to this song? Like, right? What do we how so the keyboard player probably stays, maybe they have a week where the keyboards player just is there by himself and he just is like, okay, if on this song I think I want to try this song I want to try this. They probably have a lot of stuff planned in their head, beforehand, but it also probably is a collaborative effort of everybody being like, well, why don't you try this or try this or try this? And that may sound so obvious, but a lot of bands do not do that. Don't record that way. You know what I mean?
I think so. I mean, what you're describing is how I always imagine recording goes.
Yeah.
So I would be more interested to hear about what happens when bands don't do it that way. Mm-hmm. But I guess an element of this, like, are you just describing what makes it sound live?
Yes. On one hand, yes. But also that the way I'm approaching it is like why every time you hear a guitar, why isn't it balanced out by another guitar on the other side? Right? Now, clearly the point of this band is keyboards on one side, guitar on the other side, right? Mm-hmm. So they have the added benefit of, like, when we listen to Metallica, right? Say we didn't know that, like, James does all the rhythm guitars and stuff on certain albums, whatever. Mm-hmm. They go into the studio, they probably record all the drums, then James puts all the guitars down, then all the bass gets put down, all this stuff. That's one way to record it, right?
Right, so they're not playing it all together as if they were performing.
Right, and that's probably how most things are recorded, like that method. Mm-hmm. And then you just, in that case, you have to know the songs. Like, so when Lars performs the drums for a Metallica album, I'm sure he goes in with James, and maybe everybody is there, but I'm sure it's mainly just James and him, and James has his guitar set up somewhere. They don't care about the way the guitar sounds, and he's just playing the guitar. Maybe he has scratch vocal track, so just like a crappy microphone, and then they'll play through the song and they'll really focus on Lars' part. Here, let's do all the drums, focus on the drums. Okay, we've got the drums, and then now we'll have Rob come in and play. Well, actually, they would probably do guitars before Rob come in and do the bass. But I don't know. Maybe they probably do. Actually, they probably do the bass first. Now that I think about it. But so the one thing that's different about this is that they all probably did it together. You wouldn't have to do it that way, but since we heard that and that's what it sounds like they did, I'm going to assume that's the way they did it. To me, the interesting thing is, I feel like this was approached with the idea of adding minimal things to this. Like, every second of the song is not we said this with the first song. Every second of the song is not filled with things, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, the interesting thing to think about when we're listening to this is, when did they choose to have the guitar player overdub a guitar part or add a harmony part or balance it out with some more guitar on the other side, Yeah. And that to me is so fascinating. And that's probably the thing I'm thinking about the most when we listen to this. Like, when I hear 2 tracks of guitar being played, what is happening that facilitated the decision for the guitar player to be like, I want to add another layer of guitar to this song at this point, right? Now,
right, because it wouldn't have been played live, so it would need to be an extra part.
Correct. So that was something that they did after the fact, and I keep calling it overdub because that's just a studio term. Because sometimes when we say overdub, you think I sing a vocal part and then I sing the exact same vocal part, and that's an overdub of that part. But you can also think of an overdub in more general terms is just you have something recorded and you want to record another track to put on top of that, or inside of it, or whatever. But like, you have the core of something recorded and you want to record something, an additional piece, that's just can be referred to as an overdub. So like, what the thought process behind, and I think of this all the time when I'm listening to anything, but it's really interesting in this case because there's so many moments of the songs where there isn't anything else there. And so, like, obviously in the choruses, there's a lot more keyboard parts. That's been true on the first 2 songs so far. Mm-hmm. So, like, okay, the chorus is coming, let's do that. Also, in the choruses, there's more vocal parts. So you probably have that kind of figured out. But, like, I don't know. We're only 2 songs in, so I can talk about this more as the album goes on, but I don't know. Do you understand kind of what I'm saying?
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I'm not really saying anything that's, like, conversational. It's just like, here's the thing that they're doing. As far as I understand it, and.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to outline the two different, or at least two of the different methods for recording, and what would make this sound the way that it does, and why it's different from something that doesn't sound like this.
Right,
So
and I mean
reasonable.
The other way to make something, which is later on we plan to record IC Stars reaction if we haven't done this for 1 billion hours. Like IC Stars, there's no way they go into the studio and perform their instruments. There's just no way in hell, right? It is one dude probably sitting in there programming drums, putting a guitar part over it. Maybe there's a guitar player who comes in and plays that part. And then, now, I don't know much IC Stars, so Digital Renegades is their only album of theirs I'm really familiar with at all. So, like 80% of that album is electronic. 20% is like, here's some stuff that sort of somewhat sounds like guitars, and then the horrid vocals that go over the top of it. So like that is, I always talk about how there's two ways to make an album, right? When you go into you rehearse and you go into the studio and record it, or you go into the studio and you craft the song from the ground up in the studio. Yeah. The only creative part that's happening in the studio, as far as is what I'm assuming is happening, is the overdubbing that I keep talking about. What do we add to this song, right? So there's elements
of the song that cannot exist on their own when played live by the people in the band, because he doesn't have 4 arms, or there are not 8 members,
Great way to put it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that to me is, that's something I always think about when I'm listening to an album, regardless of how it's recorded or not, but particularly in this case, because you get into like the pride of the musician, and you get into like how far are they willing to stretch your suspension of disbelief in terms of what can happen in a song, right?
Yeah.
Because with a band like this, you want it to sound like they're performing it live, right? Same thing with Metallica. If all of a sudden in a Metallica song there was an orchestra, you would be like, okay, this is clearly something different here, right? And they're suspending your disbelief. It's like watching a movie and like having some all of a sudden glaring obvious special effects, It's about suspension of disbelief, but musically, kind of, I guess would be a way to explain it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And that's a good way of putting it.
In different genres of music, your belief doesn't need to be suspended at all, because you know that it's all being created synthetically anyway. So every possible sound exists in the spectrum, or in the colors of paint that you can use to make it. You know what I mean? Like, whereas this, I hope later on in the album we hear a piano sound. Like the sound of a piano.
Yeah.
Will we? I don't know. But this dude who's playing the organ, he could play switch a knob on his keyboard and play the piano, right?
Yeah.
So that would be fine. But if he's playing the piano, and then in that same song there's also organ that comes in over the top of the piano, it's like, you're suspending your disbelief in terms of what you're hearing, because you know that would be physically impossible for him to be playing within reason.
Right.
All right, let's listen to track 3. Sorry, I will not do this between every song. This is just really fun to me, because we don't listen to stuff like this very much. So I'm like, okay, this is Sharpshooter in 3, 2, 1. Yeah. There's also just something badass about this,
It has elements of that, as rock should. But there's a certain element of like leather-clad motorcycle gang that doesn't exist in rock these days.
Yeah, 100%. Shaker.
Right? Who's doing that?
Exactly. That's a suspension of our disbelief somewhat. I'm glad it was there. Like, I'm not complaining.
No.
And it was way more prominent than any cymbal we've heard or anything.
Yeah, it was right there.
Female backing vocals, love that. Like gospel choir.
Phone's ringing.
That made me think of that commercial on 104.1 The Rock or whatever, Z-Rock or what. Phone is ringing. Oh my God, that radio commercial. Sorry, you hit a nostalgic button there for me for a second.
How many guitars are in this band? Just the one?
I think so. Yeah.
So here's your solo track on top of the guitarist also playing rhythm earlier.
Right. Shaker. I think this is my favorite song so far.
I do not like this man's voice at all.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
See, to me, the most special thing about that song was the background vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not the most special thing, but I guess so far, the most unique thing we've heard on the album so far.
And the most, like the biggest sort of superfluous addition, or because it's like a shaker is not work. Background vocals of a choir is work.
Yes.
I can't think. That's a little bit too exaggerative.
Hold on.
Seeing this band live would bore me to death.
Our air conditioner just kicked on, so I'm going to go turn it off, but you can keep talking about your thoughts, okay?
Okay.
Good luck.
I was just going to say, I think one of the main reasons I don't care for classic rock generally is that it's very boring. Like, if I saw this live, I would be bored to death. And I don't know. It's tough to sit here and just talk about this myself because, like, a lot of it involves him responding to me. But that, I think, is probably... I've never really had a revelation about why I don't like classic rock very much. And I think that was it. It's because it's boring.
I'm coming back.
Okay. Like you can hear me. Nobody needed that. So unnecessary. Which isn't to say that it's bad. It's not doing.
His voice.
No, I was just talking to the children about how classic rock is not ever something I've really engaged much with, and
Sure.
I've realized that it's because it's pretty boring.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a knock on it, I guess. Ultimately, I just like. Can you imagine seeing this live? Like, standing would be pointless.
I guess I can see that. I mean, I guess it depends what you go to a show for.
Yeah.
You know, because like I always hate people that move around a lot during a show. Like I can't stand. I've told you before about that. Like people who dance in the crowd at a show, they're like probably my least favorite people on the planet.
That's
just like but that's why. But hey, I don't go to live shows, so don't get mad at me, people. Right. I'll never get mad at you because I don't go there. So
I think I might have actually said this on a recent video we did, but the Ghostbusters theme song is a blast. It's a fun song.
Right.
It seems like it would be a lot of fun. having seen a band cover it, I can tell you that song is absolutely no fun live. It is so boring. Like it's boring to play. There's not a lot going on as a musician, and it's like there's nothing to it. It has no energy live.
Right.
And I don't like, and I know that there's plenty of arguments to be made for like, even if this is boring on album, maybe Deep Purple rules live. Maybe it's a completely different energy. Cause there have been so many bands. One I'll never forget, Wild Sweet Orange. I don't know why this one sticks in my head. I saw them live at the Waiting Room in like 1906. And it was a really long time ago. It was like 15 years ago.
Sure.
And they were so awesome live. It was great. And then when I went back and listened to the album, I was like, I got to get my hands on this. This is great. I had never heard of them before. And I was like, I am asleep. This album is so boring. And I feel the same way about Arcade Fire. Like, I saw them live once because a friend of mine was like, let's go to this show. And I was like, sure, why not? But I've never liked Arcade Fire. And the live show was awesome. And the albums are so dull. And I consider that to be just, I do not like Arcade Fire at all, but the live show was awesome. And it wasn't just awesome because they had like a confetti cannon or whatever the hell, ice tunnels that you could slide through. It was just the music, for some reason, live worked so much better. And maybe that's a big part of live, like classic rock. But I think, ultimately this is just like,
I see what you're saying, but also I just feel like I can hear a lot of people watching this in the moment just being like, wow, I completely I couldn't disagree with that anymore. Like I'm sure,
and I don't want to get yelled at for saying that.
Well, no, and I don't, but feel free to yell at us all you want. We talked for 40 minutes or for an hour and 20 minutes now without even listening to basically 3 songs. But to me, this is not necessarily the way I feel, but I know that a lot of people. Well, okay, here's maybe something that would be worth saying. In one of the comments that we didn't read on our last video, here, I'll just go find it.
And another thing, while you're doing that, I just thought of is like, I like plenty of music that would be considered to be slower and softer and potentially more boring than this. But I think it's an element of like, I don't know every single band all at once as a way of refuting this, but like the instrumentation, the style, the genre of music from those bands is ultimately quite different. And this has all of the elements of Metallica music. You've got your guitars, your bass, your drums, and they're playing it in, distorted classic rock ways. Not to say that Metallica is classic rock, but like classically rock ways. But nothing's happening. And
but what do you mean by that? Like, what is happening in a and I know it's I'm just gonna push back on that a little bit. Like, what do you think is happening in a Metallica song that isn't happening here?
Energy
and energy. Okay, I can see that. I mean,
obviously that it's heavier, it's faster, and something that a friend of mine brought up to me recently. And that this might be a huge percentage of this whole complaint that I'm having currently is, and I think I said this on another episode, is she was like, all of the music you like seems to change a lot throughout the duration of every song.
Right.
And like one of my favorite things about Metallica is the way that they have these transitions where you get all of these different pieces of a song that are so inherently different from each other. And this isn't doing that. This is just being what it is, and off you go. Well, and yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah, I think. See, to me, it's so funny because that is exactly how I view all live music. Is that because you are limited to what you're hearing, right? Like, unless you're up there and you put with nowadays a modern metal band, like at the beginning of their song. It depends if you're a big band, but let's say you're like a local metal band who's playing modern metal music. You have your laptop is one of the instruments on the stage, and you use your mighty finger and you hit go at the beginning of every single song, and it loads 70% of what you're hearing, and then you sit there and play your guitar. Like, you're still hearing all the sounds that you would expect to hear. Right. But you get to see goofy young dudes on stage jumping around acting like an idiot. And so like that's part of the live experience of that band. But with something like Deep Purple, and to me, I would even say Metallica. So I'm completely not. I'm thinking completely differently than you in this. Like to me, this is this is the closest thing to Deep Purple or to Metallica we'll probably ever react to on the channel, because it is a band being a band performing as a band, and that is what I think of Metallica and Deep Purple so far. Like except I think Deep Purple is even a little cooler because they're willing to add a little extra overdubby things, and there's a keyboard player, which automatically makes me like them more than Metallica. But when you listen to the thing that comes to my mind is just like Lady Gaga, right? Singing that. I
can't believe that you picked that.
Well, because what I'm thinking is her and that actor from the show singing that with he plays the piano and she sang standing next to the piano, and it was that song from that dumb movie that she was in. Like, what was it?
Silver Linings Playbook.
No, but it was the guy I think from that. But it was
like Superstar, something like that.
It's a movie that's been made 3 times. This is the 3rd time. They made it in the 40s, the 70s, and now. But it's that weird song that. Is it the sha na 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 whatever?
I don't know.
But anyway, like there is an emotion evoked from watching a performance that is like you're putting your whole body and soul into that. So like to me, I could watch someone play the piano and sing, and it could move me emotionally, right?
Of course.
And I'm sure it could for you too. So like the amount of things happening on stage shouldn't be what you think of in terms of how interesting something would be live. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Like if you
Are you saying like the energy of the musicians should not necessarily match the energy of the music?
No, I'm saying the amount of like if you could be moved by a piano and a vocal, then the fact that it's not fast, the fact that it's not aggressive, or the fact that it's not about being like intense or happy or about you moving physically, but that it is it could be about like being moving, like emotionally moving, should tell you that there's different music has different reasons for being performed live. You know
of course.
What I mean? Right.
Yeah.
And so like Deep Purple, I don't think you go to a Deep Purple show. That's not true, though. Yeah, not to form a pit, but I was going to say you don't go to a Deep Purple show for the same reason you go to a Metallica show, but I just personally don't think that that's true. I think I agree. You would go to the exact same person would go to both bands to see the exact same thing, and that's to see a old man standing on the guitar stage playing a guitar. That's what you go see them live for. And this has been my this is why I shouldn't talk about this, because I don't like live music. And so
this complaint that I have ultimately does not have to be focused around it being live. The point was that this music is boring. And I was just using that as an example, is like if you saw Deep Purple live, what would you do? You certainly wouldn't do much.
Right. Yeah, I guess. And to me, my counteractive to that would be you shouldn't do anything when you're seeing music live. So here's that.
Then your pointless argument remains pointless.
Yeah. So here's that comment. It's this is part of another longer comment, but it just says the classic album is called Made in Japan, recorded in 1972. It's the best live album by any group of any time. The playing the playing is brilliant, the sound is brilliant, and there isn't a single overdub. You should give it a try. As audio engineers, I believe you would be impressed. Martin Birch recorded and mixed it, and he also later did Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath. And I don't know if he means live albums or studio albums with them.
Right.
But I have heard of, just in passing and probably seen on vinyl format, Live from Japan by Deep Purple as a very famous album. Like, Like, I think Machine Head, the most obvious, well-known Deep Purple thing. Definitely the second thing is Live from Japan. And, like, there's only a few bands out there in the world whose live albums are, like, known for being as good, if not better, than their studio albums.
Or is, in fact, the reason that it is their most popular thing that they ever did.
That is the reason that they are so popular. Right. Which a lot of
Peter Frampton's alive, I think.
I think a lot of old classic rock bands are still considered classic because of the way they performed. As you know, how many one-hit wonders have there been throughout the years, right?
A billion.
Right. And did you know any song other than Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple? No. So I would say you could conceivably think of them as a one-hit wonder, but the reason that they are considered a classic band, regardless of the classic rock like genre classification, is because people enjoyed, I assume, and they were good live. Right? And so that is an element that I don't personally care about, but I think that to a lot of people, that is an element that they really care about. Like, that's a reason like AC/DC is popular, right? That's the reason that Metallica is popular. Like, their live stuff is what people talk about when they talk about Metallica, you know? And so,
right, but I also feel like you can't be good live with bad songs.
God, that's a whole episode's worth of philosophy
what a
talking right there.
What a bomb I just dropped.
Holy cow. I just don't think that's true.
That might not be true. Yeah,
I don't think that's true at all. I feel like
I guess I'll rephrase it. Can you be good live with bad songs?
Yeah, I don't know. That's really interesting. That's a great question to ask. So everybody watching, we decided we're going to skip track 4 because we have a whole video dedicated to talking just about that. And we have our reasons for doing that, but mainly I think it's for time. And so we have a video dedicated to that. Now we're on to Old Fangled Thing, which I love as a title of a song. I absolutely do. This is Old Fangled Thing in 3, 2, 1. Man, knowing you think that this is a little boring, I'm afraid you are going to think these songs sound very samey as we go on, you know?
I actually don't think that.
Okay.
So far.
And that's up to them and their songwriting. The bass is a bopping in this one. Doubles on the vocal there. When he did Along Came You, he just redid that exact same vocal part.
These little there's so many little riffs and stuff that remind me of old game music, which I think is interesting because it's probably based on music made before it that these guys also wrote.
that's probably true. Yes. No overdub that second time.
Oh.
Very interesting decision there. Ooh.
That ride is right.
That guitar part in the middle, too. A little slightly off to the left.
Interesting.
Very groovy. Yeah. Yeah, a little scatting. Da-doo-da-doo-da-doo. Oh, yeah.
You track me like a lover, breathing down my neck. Yeah, tingle touches a shivering heat. You're so serene. Now I'm a living wreck. The melody is hot and the message so sweet.
Oh, he's working.
Whoa, that was kind of nice. I like that.
Better or worse than Dave Mustaine?
Anything is better than Dave Mustaine.
I don't know.
Yo. That's the hottest take we've had right now. The dude from Deep Purple doesn't sing as good as Dave Mustaine. Chris Parker, 2424.
On that particular thing where he was like you could really hear him doing his best.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Mustaine would be significantly more well suited to.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah. I think it was I personally like that. I'm not saying you said you didn't like it, but I liked that because it was a little bit different, right? It was like of him doing like a vocal solo for a second, and it was cool. I liked it. Was it perfect? No. Has any of his vocals been perfect the entire time? No. But that's kind of just part of it.
Real old man stuff vibes to it,
Yeah, and that's part of it. Like his voice is old man voice, but it's not like grizzled old man voice, which is like...
And it's interesting. I was going to say, because you had mentioned earlier, you think that the drummer might be the only member that's consistent since the beginning of the band. And so I decided to go look. And that's only kind of true. And there may have been something that happened to them in the 70s because they all seem to have a big break between 1973 and 1984. Maybe they weren't a band for a while. But yeah, lead vocals 1969 to 1973, and then 1984 to 1989, and then 1992 to present. So I think this is the original lead vocalist, but he took some years doing something else.
Okay.
And yeah, the drummer is 1968 to 1976, and then 1984 to present. So he also has that same big gap in there. And then there's a couple of guys that are like 2002 to present, 2022 to present. So
yeah, and I know that some of the members from the band, like I know like Richie Blackmore, who we mentioned in the comments there, I believe he was in the band only for a little while, but he left then either before or after Machine Head.
Richie Blackmore, yeah, it's 1968 to 1975, and then 84 to 93.
Oh, he was backing it from 84 to 93. I didn't know that. That's cool. But he's a very famous, well-known musician who's done a lot of things. But the keyboard player I know was in it for a while, and then he died like not too long ago. So like several members of the band, now whether they are original members or
John
not.
Lord.
Yeah, some of them have passed away over time, and so then that's when they got newer people, or maybe that's why some of the original people came back. Because the people because when a band's been around for 50 years, if you're an original member and you were in the band for 20 years, and then someone else joins the band and they were in it for 30 years, the original people are no longer the keyboardists of that band. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're replacing someone who's been in the band longer than you. Exactly, Rob from Metallica.
Which is to me, I'm not allowed to say this, but I'm gonna. To me, Metallica's bassist is Jason Newsted. A lot of people would say that it's Cliff. That's fine with me. But Rob has been in the band like twice as long as Jason ever was.
Yeah.
And that feels weird. That's a weird fact.
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird. You're absolutely right. And so saying that someone is replacing someone, is tough. But like there's a lot of things that go into that. So,
and I'm seeing here that they did in fact break up from 76 to 84.
Okay, so that explains it then.
That explains the gap, yeah.
And I think all these guys have been parts of other projects over the years, I'm sure. But let's go ahead and listen to the next song, because I have a couple things I want to talk about, but I think we should. Sometimes we do this where we talk so much at the beginning and then we're just like, let's get through the songs at the end. So let's listen to a few songs. We can talk about each individual song, but then something you mentioned was interesting, and I was thinking about it there when you talked about how it's evoking like video game soundtrack stuff. Mm-hmm. And I want to get into why I think that might be the case, just from like a technical standpoint.
To elaborate on that, now that the music's not playing, I was thinking about, because I wanted to kind of keep it short while the music's going.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
yeah, sure.
So many, like, I'm getting a lot of Mega Man vibes from these synth parts specifically. Mm-hmm. And I know part of it is the style of synth, the waves and such. But I feel like there's also an element of like, let's say Mega Man 2 was 1988, we'll say, for, rough window of when it existed. People making that likely influenced by music from the 60s and 70s. And so it's like, it just struck me as kind of funny of like, this keyboard solo sounds like something from Mega Man 2, which was likely influenced by the same guys making music 20 years before that happened.
That is really crazy to think about. That is crazy. That's a great point. We'll talk a little bit more about that and why I think maybe just one reason that could be contributing factor. But for now, I did like that song. I like that da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? As opposed to the song before that, Sharpshooter, where it was much more of like the da-da-da-da-da, that's like more of a technical, like, and then there was that boppy kind of part in the, like a groovy part in the sort of in the middle of the song, whereas the song before that I feel was going for more of that sort of like you were mentioned like biker feel or something, which I don't necessarily think is super accurate, but I know exactly what you mean. Like when I said badass and you said biker, that like classic rock badass, like heavy but not heavy the way we think of heavy now, but like Black Sabbath style heavy, like there was that going on in the song before this, that Sharpshooter song, and I think I prefer that when the band is doing that, but I don't know if I would like the album very much if every song was approaching it from that point of view. So I like these more technically, like a little bit more like let's play around a little bit with the feel of the groove of the, not every song is going to be like a, oh God, how do I explain this? Let's just listen to the next one.
It's just more
dynamic. Yeah. Let's just listen to the next one, and we'll see how I'll think about it. So this is track 6, If I Were You, in 3, 2, 1. Now, I expected this to be a slow song because it's the longest one on the album. Or it's not. The last track is the longest one. But I'm expecting this to be a slow one.
It's off to a start that makes me think
and we got strings off to the side instead of organ.
Mm-hmm. Joe Satriani played with them for a year? That's interesting.
You hit me where it hurt.
I think this is going to be a good song. I mean, they've all been good, but...
Left me face down in the dirt. You hit me with
I mean, there's so much blues in all of this that, like, I mean, you can't even... This is almost more blues than classic rock at times. You could hear them actually turn the guitars up there.
I was gonna say
you could hear the knob turn.
Was so like man in a different room sings to music from somewhere else.
Yeah, that was weird, kind of.
If
Yeah.
Love and betrayal are not the best of friends. Giving back with you is the last thing on my mind. Without that feeling, it goes against the grain. Can never be the same again. If I were you.
I like this. I could see how this would be a little boring, but I like slow stuff like this. I mean, it's still aggressive, but it's more, this is more of a bluesy one for sure. Although a lot of it's very bluesy in terms of how they're approaching it, but like, remind me when this song is done to bring up expectations, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I do think that that song had real strings in it.
They have. I mean, I would like to imagine a band that's been around as long as Deep Purple, who has the kind of resources that they do, would absolutely have real strings available to them if they wanted to.
Yeah, so I think that there was real strings in there, but it's kind of funny because the song started out with him playing like very obviously fake strings on the left side where the organ normally sits. So I personally, I'd love that. That makes me chuckle really hard. So I think one of the things I was thinking about there, Chris, I mentioned expectations, right? And I think back to your point of it being boring, and I know I'm saying it like this, in quotes, is nothing that we've heard in any song would feel out of place in that song. Like everything sounds the way you would expect it to sound in the context of the song. Does that make sense?
I guess. I don't. What do you mean?
Like, they're not doing anything that is surprising.
Right, for sure.
And I don't particularly think that that's a bad thing, but I could easily see how a person whose favorite band is, you know, some crazy Japanese chiptune metal band with multiple Mook. Well, yeah, I was going to say Maximum the Hormone, but I don't think you know much about them. But like, say your favorite band is System of a Down, right?
Right.
I could see how a person listening to this would be like, no, right? Because there's nothing surprising happening. When the most surprising thing in your song is a shaker, you know, like. But again, the same thing could be said for Metallica. Like if Metallica had
because I don't think surprising is the right word.
Okay.
Because I don't think that I would be surprised. You know, once you hear a couple of System of a Down songs, you're not going to be surprised when something.
Well,
crazy
right. I guess yes.
But there's a certain element of like. I feel like I'm stuck on the same thing that you were stuck on earlier. How do you describe you know, how do you describe the happening of many things? Dynamics, intensity, like there's a certain, it's like, it's kind of like, it's just soft cruising. Like it's not all over the place. You know, I could draw you 1,000 pictures that perfectly describe what I'm trying to articulate verbally, and it's not. I cannot.
And it's funny too because I know what you're not saying is something has to be all over the place for you to enjoy it. Because I know that's not the case because you like Metallica, who is not all over the place.
They absolutely are, though. They changed their music. Like, all of their best songs change what they are 5 times.
Right, but it's the same exact sound. From the moment the song starts, the sounds that you're hearing do not change till the song's done.
Right, but what they're doing with them is quite a bit different.
Right, and so maybe that's where we're getting a bit of a disconnect here.
Yeah, I think maybe, because maybe this is like from a songwriting perspective.
Mm-hmm. Because I also think too, like, that is something that Metallica does. Like, you really never know, like, where's the guitar solo going to be in this? Like, right. Or, you know, like, what I mean? And, like,
they'll pull up hard stop orchestra, you know, strings in the middle, and then back into the heavy stuff. And, like, you know, melodic and then style change. They just are doing a lot of different things most of the time.
Right. Which is so interesting because compared to so many things that I listen to, Metallica is just so samey to me in my definition of that because the only thing that changes would be if they decide to hit a different guitar pedal during the song. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Because they're not like, you know, they don't just mid-song toss the guitar out and now they're switched to glockenspiel. Like, it is not as completely different as it could be.
Right. It still can be performed live. It's just the songwriting, as you said, is more complex, I guess. But that's not even. But with this, and I think it goes back to what I was saying. Like, everything that we are hearing in this is what we expect to hear in this. And I guess I mean that from a songwriting perspective too. Like, every song, the chorus has felt bigger than the verse. The verse has been somewhat simplified compared to the complexity of the chorus. The chorus is where we have all the overdubs, right? In every chorus, it's been that's where all the cymbals are, right? Like, just the crashes and like very loose hi-hat in the middle, and like that is what you just expect.
What separates this from The Reason by Hoobastank?
Well, I could make everybody really mad by saying that I think The Reason is way better than anything we've heard so far.
I mean, there are elements of that song. Like, there's a reason that it was the only song you heard for like 2 years or however long it was.
Right.
There's something. It is a very catchy, sing-songy song. Mm-hmm. It is unbelievably simple on every single front.
Right. Very every instrument formulaic.
Is very 101. Like, you just learned how to play X, and now you are playing The Reason by Hoobastank. And which is not necessarily to say that it's bad, but like, I had a conversation with a friend about this with a friend of mine a couple of years ago, and because we were trying to, like, there's a concept that exists just in general in life that is I would say best articulated by the quote, the opposite of love is not hate, but indifference. Mm-hmm. And it's something that you can apply to a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, where it's like, if you have a song that is all love and hate, then, you know, you're basically doing like 0 and 10. Mm-hmm. And like, things that exist at 0 is like your super simple, like the most basic, like dude with an acoustic guitar, like the least amount of, it's the most minimal thing that you can have that it still is music. And then 10 is like Maximum the Hormone or something that's completely out of control.
Right.
And like, these
Cannibal
things
Corpse.
are both right. And like, these things in their own way are both very interesting. But then you got some stuff that's like at a 6 or a 5, where it's like, it's neither of those. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's just like this weird, like milk toast beige. Like, if music was a color, it would be beige, where it's just something. And the example that she gave me that I really liked a lot for this as like a poster child of this thing is like Foo Fighters, where it's like, this is a band that is just kind of like, they're just somewhere in like the 4 to 6 range in terms of the interesting elements of what they do. Mm-hmm. This is not very interesting, Deep Purple here, you know, and I don't know how best to explain it other than that, but I also am not necessarily saying that it's bad. It's just not very interesting.
I think
that's the best word.
I think one of the things that I keep coming back to is, well, first of all, there was definitely something jangling quite a bit there when you were moving around. So I don't know if you have something. Yep, that was what it was.
I was fiddling with some hooks.
Yep, that's what it was. Didn't bother me. Just want to point it out. I thought maybe your cat was like running around or something. Sure. And because how many times have I edited a podcast episode where someone's animal walks in their room and they, for some reason, think it's cute to have bells and whistles and chains and keys tied to their dumb animal. Which to be clear, I'm not saying that I care about the safety of the animal. Use all of those instruments to beat the animal to death and put it on a bun, because that's where all animals belong, in my opinion. But I think one of the other things to keep in mind here is the sounds that we are hearing are also not being presented to us in a way that is, nothing that we're hearing is, I was trying to think about the best way to explain this, because I think this kind of goes along with what I was saying earlier as well. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, the drums on this album sound too much like drums.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how stupid is that to say? But like,
how stupid that
if
is,
you told me, what does a drum kit sound like? I would be like,
this.
Right?
May I introduce you to some Deep Purple?
Now, there's nothing on the surface wrong with that.
Right.
But a drum kit sounding like a drum kit has no character to itself beyond sounding like the drums. Mm-hmm. And I am used to listening to music where probably every drum I'm hearing is a fake drum that was, a synthetic sound that was placed in there or chosen. But what that does is it allows you to have, first of all, it allows you to tailor every single song. Like this drum sounds you hear in every song can be different, which not a lot of bands do that. A lot of bands, especially heavy bands or metal bands or rock bands like this, if you're replacing the drums, which this is definitely not replaced as far as I can tell, you choose your sounds and then that's a uniform sound across the album. Mm-hmm. But because this just sounds so much like a drum kit, I feel like there isn't much character to it.
And there's not a lot of room for it to become anything other than what it is without without the extra elements that are what you were talking about.
Right. Like
this is cooked chicken. This is a chicken heated up. Now you have chicken that you can eat.
Yes.
Versus spicing it and saucing it and all the other things.
Exactly. And like when we listen to stuff and I just like flip out like, what? This is awesome. Generally what I'm freaking out about is those drums sound freaking awesome, right? Mm-hmm. Like I do that all the time in music. When I listen to the Black Keys, that is what I want my reaction to be. Oh, that kick drum is so amazing sounding, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing about this mix is that.
Right.
But I cannot complain about any of it.
Right.
Because it's done so well. And I know from an audio engineering standpoint that it is probably way harder to make an album like this, especially nowadays, than it would be to fake everything. Because it's become so easy to fake things and just use plug-in presets. Boom, 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 done. Ship it out the door.
I think that is dramatically overselling, or I guess underselling, the difficulty of making music in that way. I think if anything, you could say that they're hard in different ways.
Okay, Chris Schoenberg, you're semanticing me into a hole. Yes.
Well, listen.
Because I know what you're saying.
People already think that so much of creation of anything requires pushing a button that says, press button, receive song. Like the number of people who think that adding multiplayer to a video game involves checking the box in Unity that says multiplayer. Mm-hmm. And I really don't want to perpetuate the oversimplification of creation on things. Like it is incredibly difficult to do both of the things that we're talking about, but I do think they're definitely going to be difficult in different ways for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Let's go to the next track and we'll continue this very complex thing we're trying to articulate.
Which once again, I had absolutely no expectation that deep contemplative thought would come out of a Deep Purple album that neither of us cared about. Like,
right. That's very true. Very true. But that's probably why we're thinking about it so hard, So, All right. Pictures of You. Oh God. Pictures of You. One of my favorite songs from a band. Pictures of you. Pictures of me hung upon my wall for the world to see. Pictures of you. Oh, I might cut that part out. All right, Pictures of You.
That's good.
In 3, 2, 1. Acoustic guitar. There's something different.
Yep, that's in there. Almost more as like a percussive element than one that's doing anything tonal.
Yeah, that's what a lot of acoustic guitar does in a rock song like this, Mm-hmm.
I'm picking up a new vibe. It's nothing too much. Antenna says I may be losing my touch. I'm hanging around a beehive. I'm feeling the buzz. It's hard to explain. Let's say it's simply because.
Are you laughing at the lyric?
No, it's something I thought earlier that I was going to say and forgot to say.
Okay. Do you want to say it
now? But it's related to the lyrics. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, do you think any of these songs are about anything?
No.
That's kind of, yeah.
I think the problem is we're listening to a whole album of this. That's not. I do like this song though.
Is that all bass sounding funky, or are there elements to that?
There's a guitar in the middle. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that must be it.
Yeah, there's like a twangy, plunky guitar in the middle. Yeah. Guitar solo right in the middle. This is a guitar-driven song for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like this. Yep.
Sounds great.
See, they're doing the turn the guitar, which I've never been a fan of that sound. But
give me like 5 or 6 minutes of this.
Yeah, and I'll bet live they do that probably.
So it's gonna go right into the next song.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Let's just go ahead and listen to it.
Okay.
I'm saying nothing. I was gonna say there could be more of like a prog rock or prog metal element to this that I think would make it appeal a lot more to me. But
I'll agree with that.
Yeah, but and like I was expecting some of the songs to be like 6+ minutes long, but that's just not what this is at all. So
it's interesting. This is like, it's almost like if Pink Floyd made regular songs, I feel like they'd be a lot more like this.
Okay. I could see that, I guess. That was cool.
We made different faces at that. Hey. Oh, I think you're several seconds ahead of me.
Oh, that.
Yeah, these little Clash elements.
Yeah. Do you mean The Clash?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know anything about The Clash.
That's good. I hate The Clash more than almost any other band in the world.
Okay.
But they have their most popular song has a lot of these funky synth elements in it.
Okay. Do you know anything about the Cars?
Not really.
I've been kind of interested in them, but I don't know anything about them.
Don't you listen to that one guy who used to be the Cars?
You're thinking of Gary Newman, who sang a song called Cars.
Every single time.
You do that every time.
Every single time. Damn it.
Not related to the band The Cars.
That's so funny. I hate that.
Very funny.
I hate it.
I'm pretty sure Gary Newman's way better than The Cars, though. What's up?
Just want to say hi, bud.
Yeah. Did you come to look at the refrigerator? Yeah. It cooled, kept my drink cold. It added slush to it, so it's definitely working. That sounds phenomenal.
Cool.
There you go. A lot of sound effects in that one. I bet some of the members of the band were like, I don't like this.
Ooh, that huge explosion at the end, that big boom. That's great.
Yeah, that was cool.
I was going to say, when he gets into more, like, the older man that he sounds, like when he gets into really wobbly old man territory, he really starts to sound like Lou Reed. I know.
Probably
but at the same time, he's killing it for being 78.
Yeah, yes, and I don't mind his vocals. I like them. Like I've gotten, I've fallen into, like, I get what he's doing and I enjoy it. And I
don't really have any problem with it.
Yeah, I like the few moments when he tries different things and, like, he did a little bit of like a more intense thing there at the end of that song. So I like that. So see what you think of this. This is I wanted to talk just quickly about why I think maybe that video game comment you had earlier.
Yeah.
I think maybe one of the reasons for that is, and this is something I was going to talk about earlier as well, but in my very, very, very limited experience with working on music and stuff, when I try to add organ to something, it's always, to me, very difficult to do. And you would maybe think that it'd be easier because you just hold chords, right, as an organ. But the thing about any organ sound is that it has fast, like immediate transient, and immediate attack, immediate release. Any organ sound. I don't care if it's... You could add delays to it. You can add reverb to it. You know, you can drench it in reverb so that there is a tail. But you go to any keyboard that's ever been made ever, and you load up any organ sound, and you push the key, and it's not going to have any... You push it, no matter how hard you push it, it's going to be the same volume. Maybe it might be a little quieter. Right, exactly. And so when you're using a source, when you're playing a source that is like that, man, is that hard to perform. Because not only do you have to be perfect with the notes you're playing, you have to be perfect with timing. Because, and it's not timing for when you play the note, it's also timing for when you let the note go. Right? So you have to think differently when you're playing the organ, which always makes me really appreciate church organists, which are just some of the
because
worst.
Like piano and synth and everything else, you only have to worry about the attack.
Right, for the most part.
Because you don't let off and then it stops. You let off and then, all of the work that's being done is done on attack only.
Right, and so that's all you think about.
That's an interesting element.
But with the organ, there's not. And so one thing that you do, and he did it a lot in that song, is when he was doing the solos and things, that's like why would an organ sound? See what you think of this. Why do you think an organ sound would be better for doing a solo than a piano sound? Like, why doesn't he use a piano sound and uses an organ instead?
I would say, based on what you just said and the fact that it's true, is that like you can go so much faster and maintain your articulation without a buildup of tails.
For sure, right?
By doing it like on and off, it becomes like it ultimately becomes a drum solo.
Right. Now, and we know as well, like, and you know this too, Chris, when you play a keyboard, you could have a pedal, right? With a pedal that you lift your foot off the pedal, and you can play fast staccato notes on a piano.
Of course.
Right? Of course you can. But there's just something about a piano that's it's too gentle. And now that's not to say you can't do solos. Of course, there's Chopin exists, right? Rachmaninoff exists. But like, what does Willy Wonka play Rachmaninoff? He plays it on an organ in Willy Wonka, right? Right? That's the key to get into the sound, the whatever.
Yeah.
If you did that on a piano, it would evoke a different feeling. And so an organ is... You hit the button, there's a sound that's an identical, unaltered tone until you lift your finger up. And that is what any sound you produce in 8-bit, in 16-bit, right?
Yep.
You don't have...
Any digital wave without effects.
Right.
On and off.
And so when you're talking about early video game soundtracks, I think that same principle, but also, and I'm not saying everything has fast attack, fast release,
right,
on an old video game soundtrack, but all the solos, all the runs you're hearing, you're thinking of Mega Man. I think of Sonic 2 a lot with a lot of this. We've mentioned that earlier. Like, all of that is effects on a fast attack, fast release sound, right? And
the organ, I'd say, is the only digital analog instrument. In that way.
Right, for sure, right? And so they were talking about how he used to, in that comment, they were talking about how to give the organ more distortion and stuff, he would plug it into some sort of amplifier thing, right?
Cool.
And what is a rotary organ, right? A rotary organ is you play an organ, but there's literally a physical something in the organ that spins like this, and it makes the organ sound go rather than just it goes it adds vibrato, right, to the organ essentially. Why did they do that? Because it's really hard to make something that sounds interesting when every single sound you hear is just a straight, flat, fake sounding thing. Yes. But when you play a bunch,
because if you take out your hand and you hit on a piano, bum,
right,
an organ's like, bap.
Yes, exactly, right. And so I think thinking about it from that perspective, it makes 1,000,000% sense that you would connect this to a video game soundtrack, or especially early video game stuff, because that's what I think of when I think of video game stuff. And maybe that's because the people who are maybe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, and I may be way off base here, but a lot of those early soundtracks were probably not made by people who were celebrated musicians, right? They were people who were...
At the time they weren't. They are now. But
right, right, but because of the work that they did. But like, probably there was a lot of this going on, right? I don't know about that. A lot of like this, or was there?
No, I don't think that's true.
No?
I think that, like, especially because especially at this point, like Mega Man, like all the ones that I'm talking the most about are all Japanese composers anyway. But like, I don't think...
Well, maybe, okay, I didn't necessarily mean this in like you can't play music right away, like you're a kindergartner playing or something. I guess I was more approaching it from the perspective of like limited technology.
Yep.
Limited like a number of tracks that you could have in the songs themselves. So like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, ultimately, like it's all... especially with like the old 8-bit stuff, like the sound chips used for music and sounds are the same. And so it's a matter of just like manipulating the tone where like technically, the tone, the more I explain this, the more obvious it is, but like the tone of Mario's jump is exactly the same thing that makes music. It's just something that fits within the structure of the math of music versus just a sound. And so it's like,
and you, the person controlling it, are controlling when the jump sound is performed.
Right. And you have only a certain number of channels that can make sound at a time. And so like, yeah, there's a ton of hardware limitations to old music. And so it is kind of like, or old game music in like that sense.
Sure.
I don't remember how many the NES has. I think it's like I'm not even going to pretend to know. And so I think a lot of it, like they write the music out on piano and then they convert it into an 8-bit format just because I think it's probably especially at the time with the tools that it took to make that stuff. I have a feeling that it was mostly like putting numbers into channels where it's like this, 08, it's 12 here. It's like, I don't really know how to program 8-bit music, but I know that you're not playing a piano to get it to happen in game. You're not programming it by playing it. So you have to write it out first and then stick it in numerically and then probably have to do a lot of reduction on it to its simplest form so that it can actually be what you want it to be in the first place, and that INSO sounds can still exist.
Right. And that was a limitation up until when? Like, was that still a limitation with like the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, for example? But
Super Nintendo less so, because Super Nintendo was sample based. That was what like the big deal with the Super Nintendo is that.
Okay. So that's like Donkey Kong, right? Like Donkey Kong soundtrack sounds phenomenal, right? Like
they could
less limitations on that.
They could actually record samples of real instruments and real piano and stuff, and then they would just reduce them in size, like bitrate data size, and stick them into the system. Whereas the Sega Genesis still just ran off of FM synth.
Okay, that makes sense. And then obviously beyond that,
and then beyond that, once PlayStation hit, then you've got
it's just
digital music.
Yeah, you could use right. So that's very interesting. But then I was also thinking while you were saying that, like, if you're playing a keyboard solo, you have to have something with fast attack, fast release, right? Because you want every different note to be performed by itself and not bleed into the next thing, right? Because a lot of the time you're doing runs, and you're doing you wouldn't play a B next to an A, next to a F, next to a G. you wouldn't play those notes all together because those are 4 notes on the keyboard that are literally adjacent to one another, right? Like they're next to each other on the keyboard. So there's no, I'm sure there's some dumb jazz 7th beyond of the regulated, modulated, whatever, where you would play those 4 notes all in the same chord, but you would never play them like this. You would never do this.
Because that's not a note.
Right. It would sound terrible. It sounds so dissonant and gross.
Not a chord, I guess. Right.
So, but what you could do is go, right, and play each one separately, right? Mm-hmm. So think about a guitar, right? When you're playing, you're doing the exact same thing on a guitar, right? You're going like, you're doing this, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you're in a band that's a guitar-based band, and they are, and you're the rock keyboard player, of course you're going to be doing this, you know, because that's, you're in a rock band. You want to do the sound that is associated with the rock. And so like it totally, like, I think hopefully everyone understands what we're saying, like, hopefully you get what I was getting at.
Here's an interesting, something that I thought of that's an interesting piece of that particular puzzle. All of the music in Wizard with a Gun is like guitar based, like heavily guitared. Ryan cannot play guitar. He plays piano. Mm-hmm. And so he did all of that with, samples and keyboard
Which I
stuff.
still have not heard the soundtrack to that. We should react to the soundtrack to that. I would do that.
We should. That would be great.
No one would watch it, but that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, nobody watches a lot of stuff you put on here. But
100%.
All of that music, he wrote and played on piano, and you cannot play it on guitar because of the way that you can't. They're not. You don't have 8 fingers on your left hand. You have to sacrifice a hand. Where in piano you don't.
Right.
And so he'll have people like reach out to him all the time, like, "Oh, can I get tabs for this song or whatever from the game?" And he's like, "Not
nope.
really. No.
Nope. Work it out yourself."
Yeah, and sometimes it'll be, enough notes that it can be played on 2 guitars, but not just one, which is really funny.
Right. Guitar 2 hands.
Right.
Which that's hilarious. There's an idea in there that would be really funny. Yeah, I the first thing one of the very first songs I ever programmed, I was doing that, and you have a bar of MIDI notes that's this big with like, it would essentially be like every note, like or always like you take when you're programming stuff. It's so funny when you program music, right? Like, if you want it to sound like say you have a real piano patch, right? And it sounds like a real piano, right? So what do you want to do to make a good song? Right? You go to a C, right? You go to C chord here, right? Then you want to probably sound thick, right? So you could do a C up here too, right? So that's the same chord. But then you're like, well, you need that low one over here, right? Physically
so you
impossible
add that too?
To play. Now there's different ways you could do that, right? If you wanted to do that, you could play there and here, which this is a bigger thing, so my fingers can't reach, so it's like comical. But like, or because there's no limitations, why not just throw that same chord there, right? So you have that chord there, that chord there, that chord there. It's the same exact thing being played 3 octaves, 3 notes in 3 octaves simultaneously, physically impossible for any one person to play. But also so simple and stupid, no composer would write that. No composer would ever make you play that. Like that would never. That's in the history of music. That's never been done, performed live, because no composer would ever write that. But when you're programming stuff on a keyboard, you're like, I don't know. I don't know
4 more arms.
I don't know anything about music. I don't care. So it's like, whatever.
Let me hit the octave down button on my keyboard a couple of times and add 3 more.
Yeah, and I know I want to play in the key of C because then I don't have to worry about any of these dumb black keys. They don't mean anything to me. So it's like, so it's like. It's so funny when you think about stuff like that and how limitations and whatnot and everything, which, sorry, we're so far beyond Deep Purple. Deep Purple?
The idea that anybody, I feel like the overlap of demographic of people who like Deep Purple and people who want to hear every single other thing we said about this, and during this episode, it's like there's 100 miles between these 2 circles.
No one is still here. No one is still here.
No.
We are by ourselves right now.
Yes.
And that's totally fine. All right. Lazy Sod. I love that. I love that. I love that. That's such an old man thing. You lazy sod.
Yeah. Old British man, especially.
Yes. Is Deep Purple British?
Yes.
Learn something new every day. I'm pretty sure I do that though, but
you probably didn't know that.
All right. In 3, 2, 1.
Trigun.
I need to hear some of that soundtrack, apparently. You've used that as a reference for a lot of things.
Oh, you should just listen to the intro song from the original Trigun anime. That's all you need.
Oh, okay.
And you'll get all of it.
We should do that. Pick our, 3 or 4 favorite anime openings or closings, and we could react to it in a video someday.
Yeah.
Oh, he said smoke! 50 years later, he said smoke! Oh! Dude, I feel like the songs are getting more space in between when we listen to them, so I'm enjoying them more. If we listen to one every hour, I'll really enjoy them all.
Yeah, once in a while.
Oh, for God's sakes. I like this. Oh, piano! There was piano sound in there.
Yeah, that had like a
ding, 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 ding.
Yep, there it was. You're right.
I'm just going to say this, and I don't regret it at all. I think it's absolutely 100% true. This guy, a million times better than Kirk Hammett.
Well, that's not true.
No, it is.
No, it's not.
Much more interesting to listen to than Kirk Hammett.
That doesn't mean that he's better. That means that he's writing parts you like more.
I'm pretty sure I mean he's better in every way imaginable. Maybe not as good at hair. I haven't seen this guy. Kirk's got the hair game on point. If you yeah. I was going to ask you this earlier while this is going. How many bands how often would you say you hear a keyboard solo in a band, in a song, music you listen to? Left hand doing a lot of work there, really bopping around that low note there.
I don't, rare. It's rare.
Okay.
Very rare.
Because I've been thinking a lot. Chris Schoenberg and I talk about Children of Bodom a lot when we reference stuff on the channel. I've mentioned them in probably every Metallica video we've ever done. We need to do a 4 or 5 song Children of Bodom video.
Okay.
Because the thing is, I know you won't like Children of Bodom. I don't think you would ever listen to them as a pleasure listen to them.
Yeah.
But man, are there parts of that you are just gonna lose your lunch over.
Okay.
Guitar solo in the middle.
Yep. But also guitars left and right.
Yeah, and these guitars, that riff was very ZZ Top.
Yeah, you're right.
Ooh, I like the beginning of that next one. You know what? Let's just go ahead and listen to it, right?
Okay.
In 3, 2, 1. Love this. Is this going to be the one creepy song on the album? No.
It's going to be the one. Nope.
Do you still have their wiki page pulled up or whatever you were looking on earlier?
Yep.
Is it just 4 members then? Four members?
5.
So are there 2 guitar players? Or no, keyboard player.
2 keyboards.
What? 2 keyboard players? Not
lead vocals. Wait. Drums, bass, keyboard, lead vocals, keyboard, guitars.
I don't believe you.
Wow.
Still better than Dave Mustaine.
He sounds very British here. Ooh.
I just got a copyright claim on a YouTube video that I uploaded years ago of me beating The Witness, the video game.
That's amazing.
Okay, back to fact-checking you. And the funny thing is I'm going to go to Wikipedia to fact-check you, which is what you were just looking at, so...
I'm still looking at it.
Yeah.
It's still true.
You must be reading it incorrectly. There's no way there's 2 keyboard players in this band. Like, when they perform live, there's no way in hell.
I mean, one of them is listed as bass first, so maybe he just does keyboards.
Oh, that's probably right. He probably is the bass player, and then, yeah.
Cartoon old man gets hit in the nuts. Go home!
Oh yeah, I see here. Ian Pace, drums. Roger Glover, bass. Oh, shoot. Ian Pace, drums. Roger Glover, bass. Ian Gillen, vocals. Don Airy, keyboards. Simon McBride, guitars. Okay, yeah. Yeah, because we've heard no harmonica either.
True.
While I'm here, let's look up the new album. Good Lord, they got a lot of albums. Over 50 years, who'd have thought?
Yeah, even with a 9-year break in the middle. Get your board out. I was thinking about this board the other day, about how truly pointless it is.
Yeah, because we never talk about it. We never talk about it after the fact.
Right. There's no running tally of all the different bands and all the number of fade outs. It's just a mark on a board that says fade outs.
Yeah, and yes. And the funny thing is, like, it's the purpose of the board is supposed to be we count how many fade outs throughout an album, and then the joke of it is supposed to be at the end we bring out the board and we say there's three tallies. The song has 13 albums or 13 songs. This album gets a 10 out of 13 or whatever, a 9 out of 13 rating. Yeah. And like, we don't never once, I maybe you've done it once, but like very rarely do I get the board back out at the end of the video.
Yes. There's a thing that I've been thinking as we go through these songs to sort of try to potentially clarify my point from earlier about it being meh or mid, I guess. And it's like, it feels like, and it's something that keeps happening as we talk about it too, is like this music seems to work really well as something that is playing behind you as you're doing something else with other people. Mm-hmm. Like at I don't know, you're like at a cookout. Like this is great cookout music. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But it is occasionally a little bit more interesting than cookout music, where like that song, for example, with that whole last bit, the solo and all that nonsense, in a good way, nonsense, is like, if you're listening to this at a cookout, it's taking your attention away from the conversation you're having or the other thing that you're doing.
Right.
And so it doesn't perfectly qualify as cookout music.
Yeah,
for reasons like that.
I can see that. And I think it's hard because on one hand, I do agree with you, but on another hand, I don't agree with you. Like, I think the cookout thing's a good example. See, for me, the example I always use in my head is, what music are you going to put on when you're ready to clean the house? That's what I think.
Bad.
That's what I think. And so, like, this morning, I was literally doing this. I had my first ever telecall or teleconference or whatever with my doctor. So, right, I didn't have to go into Omaha today. We connected via Zoom or whatever. And
Telemed, I think.
Well, it was called telehealth visit.
Oh yeah, telehealth. Yep.
And so I was ready for that like 2 hours beforehand, like a good punctual person.
Little cancer patient.
A good little cancer patient. I literally in my head I was thinking like a good little Christian boy, but I was like, that doesn't apply in this situation. Good little cancer patient. That's what I should have said that. But like, so I was ready to go. I had everything set up, ready to go, good to go. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to put on to play? And I was like, I don't have any albums down here. And I thought that as I looked over at my shelf of like 500 CDs, and I was like, I don't have any good CDs down here, And so I was like, what am I going to do? And then I was like, well, I've always got my Metallica. So I went over to Metallica, and I was like,
oh man,
which Metallica do I want to listen to when I'm cleaning? And I was like, well, I don't want to listen to Black Album because I like that album, right? If that album's on, it's going to distract me, and
these are all too interesting for this.
And I'm going to just be, cleaning, doing my exit light, I don't know what. Well, probably let's blur that out. Whatever emotion that was. What's
someone who's never used a push broom in their life or is turning buttered wrong?
Someone cleaning a window, going whatever. Nothing else matters, right? And so I was like, then I could listen to. Then I thought, okay, well, Master Puppets. But then I was like, nah, I don't want to listen to that one.
It's even more too interesting.
Then I thought, Then I thought Ride the Lightning, and I was like, those 3 songs fade out, so I don't want to listen to that one. But then I was like, aha! I haven't listened to Kill 'Em All in a while. So I put on Kill 'Em All, and I was standing behind the recliner, as it was playing, and the first riff, and then whatever the rest of Hit the Lights is.
I can't clean this fast. Like,
this is, oh gosh, the people on our Discord are going to cut this video up and make a lot of GIFs out of this.
They should.
Yep. If enough people boost our channels, then we can have like emotes or whatever that move or whatever, however that crap works. So to what my point with this was going to be, when I want to put on a Metallica album to just not think about it, my go-to albums would be Hardwired, Death Magnetic, because I think those are two of the most boring.
I'm calling Chris.
I think those are two of the most boring metal albums I've ever heard. They are just so boring. Nothing.
Oh, it's the false.
Nothing on those 2 albums stands out to me whatsoever. Maybe 1 or 2 songs, here.
This is a great. Anybody who's ever confused about like, I'm listening to someone talk about something and I can't tell if they're wrong or not. I will compare them to this video I have on hand of Patrick being textbook wrong, and I will see how close they match what he's saying. Ah, yes, I see. Very close. Good. The universal wrong.
It's so funny you say that, because in our very first ever Metallica video, Chris was made. I already have it as a short on our channel of Chris saying, whenever I meet people and we're talking about things, I always say my friend Patrick is the only person I know who's ever been factually wrong, whose opinion is factually wrong.
Yes, I love that.
We already have that short already exists. So this is just you saying the same thing year and a half later. But
good.
But
still true.
My point was going to be that the albums of Metallica's where they do the least other than just guitar, bass, drums, vocals, which are those 2 albums I just mentioned. I feel that way about this as well. So like that, I don't even know what my original point was going to be. It's just that
I have lost the plot.
Yeah, you were talking about this music. Let's just go back to Deep Purple, right? So you were saying Deep Purple is cookout music, right? Like background music, whatever. And I can't fight you on that, but part of me just feels like that's wrong. Like that's
I agree.
Doing a disservice to it because it is better than that.
Yes.
But I think because we are who we are, there's like a personal subjective opinion part of this that is like, there is a lot to what we're listening to that is unappealing to me from the standpoint of how everything sounds. You know, generally when I'm listening to music, I want the bass to sound as phenomenal and interesting as possible. I want the drums to sound as phenomenal and interesting as possible. I want the guitars to sound as phenomenal and interesting as possible. And I want the vocals to sound as phenomenal and interesting as possible. And then
you keep coming back to that word, interesting. And
yes.
I feel like that's the thing that we're stuck on, is that this is just not very interesting.
Interesting sounding. Because I do think that the guitar riffs are cool. I do think that everything is performed perfectly.
It's flawless.
Like there's like a looseness, like this could be bad, but there's like a looseness to this where to me that's where kind of like the bluesy feel of everything comes in. Like it feels like part of it could be like the solos and things, parts of it could be improvised, and I don't know if these soloists do any improvisation or not, and then they just like pick the best takes or edit takes, like some guitars, like I know for a fact that Kirk did this on some of the Metallica albums, right? He went in and he recorded himself noodling over the songs, the solo section, like several times, and then it was up to the audio engineer to pick the best parts and put them together into a song that then Kirk had to sit down and learn how to play later to perform it live. Verbatim, if that's the way he wants to do it. You know, he could also improvise it live, I don't know. But like, this could definitely be that to a very high level. They could also be very like intentional with what they're doing as well. I don't know Deep Purple well enough to know anything about that. But like, there's like a looseness to this, a bluesiness and improvisational feel to this that I feel is performed very well. But for
people who have been playing instruments for 60 years jamming in their garage,
right,
at the highest possible quality. And
they wouldn't be where they are and who they are, and their name wouldn't hold the weight that it does with the influence that they have had over decades if they weren't fantastic. But for people like you and I who sit here and listen to things all day as a job, you know, like, I'm not even talking about reactions. I mean, like, we work with sound, right? And so like and for me personally too, like, if something doesn't sound interesting, I don't care about it. Right. I've said that. So how many times have I said that on this channel? I would rather listen to a poorly written, well-recorded song rather than a poorly recorded, well-written song.
Every day.
I say that in every other video. And I think that it's true.
It is true. And here's another, I'm not even saying that Deep Purple is uninteresting. I mean, this genre of music, classic rock, is just uninteresting. And this may be a fantastic classic rock album where it's like classic rock is deeply uninteresting and Deep Purple is bringing the heat into an uninteresting genre of music.
Right. And that's all just our opinion on this.
Right.
You know?
Well, I'm just saying like that, you know, I'm not here to say that this is a bad album. I'm saying that this type of music is boring. And I don't want people to construe that as as me saying that this album is boring, because it is, but not because it is.
Right. It's really, it is really complicated because like there's so many elements that I like that is happening, but for some reason there's nothing about this that I can sit here and be like, wow, that was awesome.
Yes.
You know?
So many times I've been like checking every song against these parameters that I've put together in this video and thinking, see, now this is pretty interesting though. This thing that they're doing, this guitar thing, there's dynamics here. They're soloing, they're, you know, fast and loose. This is very cool. But it's doing nothing for me whatsoever.
Right. And I think
and then just the whole time I've been trying to figure out, how do I articulate why that's the case.
Mm-hmm. I think it's the mix and the recording. Like I don't necessarily think I think I disagree with you on this a little bit. I don't think that it's the genre. Like I don't think that's what.
And that's fine. We're not. We're making different arguments that sound very similar.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that. Yeah.
Because I'm with you. I agree with you as well. But I think there's an added element of this that is exclusive to me in that classic rock is not interesting.
Right.
To me.
Now, when you say classic rock, it's probably impossible, but can you expound on that at all? I mean, are Beatles classic rock?
What are the Beatles?
I mean, is Aerosmith? Let me just throw some names at you. Aerosmith, right? Okay. Yeah. What about AC/DC?
Very much so. That's like
ZZ Top, right? Right.
ZZ Top, yeah.
Okay, so what about Queen?
I would say ultimately that's true. Queen is, but man, that's a different one.
And they're also so different than this. They are.
Because at what point do you get classic rock that's also prog, and when is it more prog than classic rock?
Right. So, and that's pretty much the extent of my knowledge of bands from before 2000.
Yes, we have a similar problem there. But like,
because this definitely, this is music that falls into the gap of my knowledge. It falls into the gap, right? Because like, if we were talking about Tommy James and the Shondells, or the Supremes, Diana Ross and the Supremes, or like Elvis, or Johnny Cash, or like stuff from 1970 and before, then I would feel more confident maybe talking about it. But from 1975, which this is before that, but these guys were ahead of their time. From like 1970 to 1980, actually from 1970 to like 1996, if you were in a rock band, I probably don't know that much about it. You know, but if you were a pop band or something, like I love 80s pop music. But
that could be. Now you're talking about the potential for like from like an industry perspective. You're getting into when synth becomes a thing, and now rock is dead for 15 years because the synth world, like 80s synth pop, like you had metal and then you had Oingo Boingo, and that was it for music in the 80s. Like
with the guitar,
yeah,
right.
And I mean, I guess that's also when like glam hair band stuff started to happen.
That's what I was going to say, because
that's the crap. Yeah.
Because that well is what Metallica crawled out of and was like, no, we can do this for real.
I feel like Metallica was there first, and then glam crawled out of the metal well and became its own.
Okay, maybe that might be true. My timeline I feel like there is not good.
Metal is less. Metal was less palatable for most people, and then glam rock crawled out of it and said, we will be metal that everybody can like.
Because like Black Sabbath, which was like late 60s into 70s, it was like 60s into and then like in the 70s a lot of rock was like there was like country rock was like a big deal, or like Americana rock, right? That's when you had the Eagles and America and stuff like even like the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, which I talk about all the time, and people might get mad at me because what they think of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band is their 90s, like You and Me Going Fishing in the Dark, which is like country from the 90s. But like they were a band for 25 years before that doing like country rock music, like Mr. Bojangles, the song, like
this is probably one of the most infuriating episodes most of these people have ever watched.
Oh, 100%. Nobody that likes Deep Purple likes this video. And nobody
I am not here. Like this timeline of what, like who came from what and when, and like the timelines and stuff, like this is super fast and loose because as you have just described, neither of us know shit about music from that time.
That's so true. You know what? Let's just listen to the next song. Okay.
Let's get this knocked out.
No Money to Burn is what we're on now. And hey, it's a good, nice short one, and there's a nice short one after that. Maybe this will be a real fast one.
I'm sure that's what they can do.
In 3, 2, 1. But it's not. It's just the same thing.
Right.
Feel a scorpion sting, whatever
But at the same time, the thing that makes it cool is that it does sound so vintage. But again, like we said at the beginning, this is just the way they sound.
Right. They sound like themselves.
Yes.
What a thing.
What an accomplishment.
Sentiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think we would feel the same way? Here's a good question. Do you think we would feel the same way about this album as we do about the one we're listening to currently?
How do we feel about this album?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, do you, like, would knowing that an album, that we listening to this, that it came out in 1972 or whatever, would that change your opinion on it at all?
No, I don't think so. I think that I would probably feel the same about it as this because I feel like they're ultimately the same type of music from the same band doing what they do best.
Do you think that this album has any chance of sounding better than this?
No.
What they were listening to? No?
No way.
I don't think so either. And that
I don't think it's possible.
See, no, on this album, the first track is 6 minutes long, 4:51, 5:03, 3:56. And then Smoke on the Water is 5:40, then a 7:19 and 4:31.
And that's it?
So so there's only 7 songs.
Yeah, at those lengths, you couldn't have more than that, both sides.
Yeah, you could. But
Church bell ring, commit a cardinal sin, whatever gets to me first, well, that's alright.
yeah, we've never recorded a video that deserves to be hated as much as this one.
I know, and I desperately don't want to be hated.
And I have to spend 7 hours editing this because it's going to be a 3 hour and 20-minute video or however long we have yet to suffer through this. And I don't say that because the music's, I'm not suffering listening to this.
That's the thing. That's the thing. This music is not interesting enough in either direction to be something you have to suffer through.
Right.
You can't love it and you can't hate it because it's a 6. It's a 5. But it's not that's not like 5 out of 10 of quality. It's like it lives in
It's
the
a modern Marvel movie.
Yes.
Without any social agenda being pushed at you.
Yeah, it doesn't really it is. It's just a bunch of people jamming.
Yeah.
Like it's got
But it's more than that though. It is
more than that. But it is
there-
only a certain percentage more than that. It's not the Grateful Dead, you know? There is more substance here than that.
Yes, but
only just.
And like no other band that I listen to, I'm going to say this and I'm pretty sure it's true. No other band uses organ like this that I've ever heard, ever. Right. And that should be something that I'm like, I can't believe this.
The only other music that I've heard that uses organ and keyboard this way is when Nobuo Uematsu put together his metal band, the Black Mages, to do prog metal versions of all of his Final Fantasy music.
Right,
he's going wild on the organ, but
and
that doesn't count.
And I'm sure that was heavily inspired by Deep
Purple.
Purple.
He loves this stuff.
So it's like, it's just.
I think you should listen to some of that, honestly. But
I really want us to react to. I want you to make a list of the amount of things we have to listen to. Chris will. I mean, the amount.
It's endless. We'll be here for the rest of our lives.
It's stupid for us to even say you should listen to that because, shut up, dummy. You know.
Yeah.
But I should like this more than I do.
I see. That's frustrating.
I should like this more than I do, because this is, like you said earlier, this is ticking a lot of boxes for me that is harder to find. Like good blues rock with heavy, thick sounding, well-recorded riffs, not that easy to find. You know, so many bands that do this like blues rock thing are so far up their own ass with trying to make it sound vintage, like the Heavy or some Black Keys albums, where they're like, let's lo-fi this to the point where it's ridiculous. Whereas this is just like, let's make an album that sounds like it's from the late 60s, early 70s. Do we expect more from music now than we do from music from the 70s?
Well, I've said in the past, one of the reasons why I don't like old, like classic music like this is like, I've equated it to, if not, let's see, I got to pick one. I have two different directions to go with this. I got to pick one. When you're learning how to make a cake, you're going to make the most basic cake that you can make. Vanilla or whatever, just and cake.
Yes.
Cake in box. And then, that's good. Delicious cake. And then later, you start getting into cake. You've got your German chocolates, your red velvets, your coconut, whatever. I mean, cake is not a super great example because cake's almost all the same, at least compared to pie, but that's a different conversation. But why would you go back to that vanilla cake after you have so many better versions of cake?
Yeah, I feel like ice cream would be maybe a better example.
Ice cream's better.
Plain vanilla ice cream, great, right?
Yeah.
But once you have ice cream with chocolate chips in it, why would you ever just have plain vanilla? Within reason,
beer,
of course.
This is gonna remove you from this conversation briefly, but beer is a really good example. Like, you've got your Coors Light, which is just the most nothing in the whole world. And this is my personal trajectory with beer, so I think it's easier to articulate. But then you start getting into all of the different things that beer can be, which is so many things. I think
you just hit it. I think that is the perfect analogy for this. Because how many people do you know of that don't bother with anything other than just drinking a Bud Light?
I mean, I know of them.
A vast majority of people I know.
Right. Yeah, they're all
where I live.
But I definitely know them.
But like,
and I've talked to them. And here's an interesting point of this: when I started drinking beer, especially when I moved into like craft beers and like picking out the kinds that I like and seeing how different they all were and everything, I was like, oh, good. I could finally connect with my dad on something because he's an alcoholic.
Sure.
And so I talked to him.
Sure.
And so I called him and I was talking to him one day and I'm trying to talk to him about beers. And he's like, oh no, I hate all that crap. I just drink beer to get drunk and I want it to taste as much like water as possible. And that's why I've had Miller High Life for 40 years. And it's like, well, never mind, I guess. I'll go back to the drawing board. And so it's like, look at that. Now he's not even drinking beer for the flavor of it. It's just he doesn't want to just drink straight Everclear or whatever, And so it's like, you're not listening to Deep Purple to do what we're doing.
You're not. You're right. And the thing is, so many people are just content with just listening to Deep Purple.
Right.
Rather than going, and it's like, but that's nothing wrong with that. Because there's nothing wrong with here.
That. There's less wrong with listening to Deep Purple just to listen to it than there is with drinking Coors Light. Like, that's a problem. This is not.
Well, right. But I just mean, like, I think you really hit on something there that is like, and maybe this is like a wider thing for just like people who just listen to pop music, like surface level or whatever. But like, clearly people like this on a deeper level than surface level, because people are talking about a purple level. Yeah. Because people like this, like people in the comments of this video, people will probably be like, oh, this, like that one guy said that Ian Pace or whatever the guy's name is for the drummer is like he's his favorite drummer ever. Why?
All right.
Why? Well, I have heard nothing on this album that indicates to me that he's a phenomenal drummer, but I'm not like drummer dude, so I'm not sitting here like
he's just getting it done,
focusing. Yeah, and like that's nothing wrong with that. We both enjoy Lars,
Yeah,
and there's nothing he's ever done that's special at all, other than inventing the stand up and stop your cymbal after you hit it.
I mean, that's pretty special, but
It is. That is pretty special.
At any rate.
But still, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's plenty of drums. Like, I could do 1,000 different songs where it's like,
but the best,
drums,
but
like, that is not the point of this song. But this band, even.
The best plain vanilla is still just plain vanilla ice cream.
Right. It can only be so good, and nobody hates it. But
there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with it. It can only so good.
And I think that what we're comparing it to the vanilla-ness of what we're listening to. Sorry, I keep pointing over here off to the side because I have my Deep Purple CD sitting over here.
That's funny. I like.
So
that.
I just keep going like the Deep Purple album we're listening to. I should be doing this, but like. It's the way it sounds. There's nothing special about how it sounds other than the fact that it sounds exactly how you expect it should sound.
And it sounds very good.
And it does. It does. I do think the kick drum could have more definition to it. It is kind of just like a poof type thing. But like, oh, this is so fascinating. This is you and I have the most interesting conversations when we're recording, and most of the videos I don't even bother editing because it's like no one will ever watch this. All right,
that's so funny because like I feel like our videos with this type of stuff, like these are the podcast episodes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'll catch you. The penultimate track.
Yep.
You ready? In 3, 2, 1. Shock me to my core, Deep Purple. Do something to shock me. I mean, the thing is, they're doing what I always say bands shouldn't do, right? They're limiting themselves to what they can perform. However,
or what they want to perform.
Right, and that is how Metallica records as well. They limit themselves to what they can do live. But there's something happening here that is like offensive to me because I feel like there's so much more potential here that's not being reached. But like I thought maybe I heard some trumpets there in this one, like a brass section. Maybe I did, I don't know. Let's try listening to it. No, I think it's just guitar I was hearing.
Maybe we shouldn't just listen to it.
Yeah.
Mother Nature's keeping her socks on.
They're certainly not blowing ours off.
Right. I'm keeping my socks on too, Deep Purple, don't worry.
And it ain't a hard thing to do. Ooh, that was a plosive. He had a plosive on keys there. Unless that was you hitting a microphone or something.
It might have been me.
Oh, it might have been the kick drum.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. I don't know. Guitar solo in the middle. Strummed acoustic guitar on the far right. Some slightly strummed acoustic guitar on the left as well.
Think of how delicious vanilla ice cream was when it was invented.
It's a good thought.
Yeah. Driest vocals on earth.
Which I do like. I like dry vocals.
Mm-hmm. I don't really mind them in this instance either because it's like...
Do you have anything to say or you want to just listen to the last song?
Let's just move it along.
Yeah, let's do that.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. That's track 10.
Oh.
That's a...
That's so stupid. Oh, that's a joke my mom would make. Congratulations.
Good. You laughed. This is great.
Yeah.
It started off so easy.
Now it's
Ooh,
gone.
Heavy.
Your life is complicated. I'd help you if I could. Time is slipping by, you know, and things are moving fast. But you got a long way to head, my friend, if you saved the best for last. It's bleeding.
I think it's the combination of the drums and vocals. The drums are uninteresting and the vocals are just slightly annoying.
Yeah.
And then to have 52 minutes of that in every song. Because the keyboards and the guitars are cool. I like the way the guitars sound. I do.
I agree.
I don't think they need to be heavier. I don't think they need to be crunchier or anything like that.
I would love to hear them cover a Metallica song so that I could see what the difference is.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But apparently Metallica's covered Deep Purple, so
That might be worth looking at.
yeah.
I don't know. I think that's different. That does a different thing.
Yeah. Because you already like Metallica.
Right, but I mean just like,
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, they don't go both directions. Yeah.
This is great.
Ding. Those are cool.
Yeah, it is.
I like this a lot. This reminds me of Protest the Hero,
Interesting.
but in like a classic sound.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of like... I mean, Nightwish could do any of this kind of stuff too, you know?
Somewhere along the line, the salient points departed and parked itself in a back street in a lonely part of town. It was lost in the fog of time. You started so well, then went off on a trip around the world. Everywhere under the sun. If you ever return, we'll see if you learn that it all adds up to one.
Interesting background vocals.
Cool.
Yes,
I like
it
this
is.
Middle
Yes.
Eastern tone. Holy hell.
Maybe their earlier stuff was more prog, you know?
Yeah, that could be.
I know you think I'm stupid, but you got to give me time.
It's so funny because, you know, I'll remind me to say some boring, long, unimportant thing after this.
Okay.
Say this and that, who knows what is so hard to believe. It's bleeding obvious if what you're trying to say the same as all the rest of us in quite another
That is an ending.
Mercifully, it's over. Now, I will say that was probably the most one of the more interesting songs. You know, I think that there were several songs at the beginning that I do feel felt a little different. And I'm just going to go back to Portable Door for a second and just listen to it to see if it sounds like vastly different than the rest of this.
Same.
No, it's the same exact thing. No, it sounds identical. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the case of like one of the singles was like,
oh yeah,
you know, something completely different. Okay, so what I was gonna say is, there's through over the years, whenever I show you, there have been many bands where I don't think this, but whenever I'm like, okay, I found a new band that I like, and I want to share it with Chris or Graham or Austin or Jason or whoever. The number one fear that I have is that you will think about that band exactly how we tried to describe this album the whole time. Like, because this is the worst way I feel like you could feel about a band. Like, it's so much more easy to tangibly be like, I hate this because the singer's vocals are terrible. I hate this.
The opposite of love is not hate, but indifference.
Indifference, exactly. Like if I showed you something that I truly love and you felt this way about it, it would hurt me way more than if I showed you something that I love and you were like, this is garbage. You know what I mean? Like,
it makes perfect sense.
If you couldn't if we put so much emphasis on trying to be able to explain why we feel the way we do, and if you couldn't explain it, I just
like, as soon as that song was over, I thought, what was the best song on the album? That's an irrelevant question.
My answer to that definitely is the one that I think it was Sharpshooter or maybe a bit on the side, but the one with the female gospel choir backing vocals.
Oh, sure.
Because
which is only that way because of that tiny element.
Right.
And if I had to pick one, I would probably. I mean, the last song was the most interesting, and Portable Door I fired up just long enough to hear it just now when you listen to it, and it's like I like the tone, like the notes that they're playing there. It gives me more of that sort of like Mega Man vibe. But like, I don't care to pick the best song on the album. Like, I don't care.
Yeah. Oh God, it's disappointing because I do feel like,
but it's not their fault. So going back to what I was saying earlier, how delicious was vanilla ice cream when it was invented? Like, my thought was, this is a simpler music from a simpler time.
You know, as soon as you said that, I got just like white hot anger for a few seconds because I was the vanilla
simpler music time.
I bet vanilla ice cream was so good when it was invented because I hate people who say that Black Sabbath is the greatest metal band because those people are just wrong. And like, because it's like, have you never heard anything else? Like,
so it wasn't anger at what I said.
No, it was just how it made me feel because it's like,
it reminded you of how many people had vanilla when it was invented and decided they were done eating ice cream, and then had the gall to tell you that it's still better than all of the new ice cream.
Because what that tells me is that you're allowing nostalgia to be such a factor in your reason for liking it that it's hard for me to take your opinion seriously because I can't sit here and tell you that Black Sabbath isn't a phenomenal metal band. I don't know that much about Black Sabbath, so I'm kind of speaking out my butt here. But like, let's just say
using them as an example.
Using them as an example for the sake of, I don't think there's anything wrong with Black Sabbath. There may even be elements to Black Sabbath that are great, that are phenomenal. But to say that in the last 70 years since Black Sabbath, nothing else has come out that is better than that is just ridiculous.
Yes.
It's ridiculous, and it means that your opinion in saying that Black Sabbath is the best metal band is based in something that, for me, I just can't comprehend, right? And I'm not saying that your favorite song shouldn't be a Black Sabbath song, or that Black Sabbath shouldn't be your favorite metal band, you know? But when you said that about the ice cream, you're like, I'll bet people went nuts for vanilla ice cream when it was invented, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're so right.
Mm-hmm.
You're so right. But...
And then, to add to that, what you were saying is like, ultimately, the real, like, behind the curtain, close mic problem with all of the things that we're saying is like, as soon as you have to start defining all of this stuff, it falls apart. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, Black Sabbath is the best metal band. Define metal. Mm-hmm. You know, you're dead. Because the person telling you that is probably using Black Sabbath as the definition of metal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so now everything after it is just what came after.
Yeah. And
so it's like...
It's the same thing with when I hate it when people are like, let's list the top 10 best video games of all time, and Super Mario Brothers 1 or Mario is on there. Yeah. I'm like, that's wrong. It's just...
Right.
There's no...
And then because
there's no pie chart that exists that you could prove that to me unless a quarter of your pie chart is influence.
Right. And I was just about to say, you have to define your metrics or else it's pointless.
Yeah. Because there's
so it's like the best video game of all time. It's like based on what? If it's like, oh, this is the one that started it all after the crash of 83.
But that should have no relevance to best. It shouldn't. Right. It shouldn't. There's no human being that can tell me that Super Mario Brothers 1 or whatever the first one is, the one we all
Super
think
Mario
is
Brothers.
Mm-hmm. There's no human being alive that could make a tangible argument to me that game is better than The Last of Us 2.
Right.
There's
that game's
no
peaked
way.
In 1986.
There's no way, you know? So it's like, but I know for a fact that there are people who think that, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not even counting like people who think that like they don't like Last of Us 2 or whatever. That's neither here nor there. I just mean like peeps. There are people who like legitimately think that like, yeah, like it didn't get any better after Tetris.
Well, and that's another thing too. Is like maybe now you're in trouble for comparing genres. Like, of course, how do you compare Last of Us 2 to Mario? But
for sure,
the world of indie gaming, I guarantee, has a 2D pixel side-scrolling platformer that is better in every way than Mario Brothers.
Oh,
if only by quality of life differences alone, with like auto saves and controllability and stuff. And it's like, Mario may have been an influence on that thing, and it couldn't exist without it. But which game is better? You can't just stick to Mario because it was first.
Okay, right.
Because that's not fair.
So why is that relevant to Deep Purple? Because there is nothing wrong with Mario. There's nothing. Well, I mean, there's some of it's dated. But there's nothing wrong with Deep Purple, other than the fact that there's nothing special about it.
Right. It used to be special.
The way this sounds. I shouldn't say Deep Purple. This album we just listened to.
Right. And on the grander scheme, more broadly, classic rock. Because it's it's kind of bad. Well, that's fair. That's fair. Because I was just going to say it's kind of almost doesn't work. Classic rock as a genre, it's like it's classic because it was a long time ago, but you've still got classic rock bands making new music, so it has to be a genre.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Otherwise, it's just rock. And I don't like Deep Purple's chances if you put them in a modern rock category.
You're right. No, that's a great point. That's when you've lived so long that that's an interesting thought too. And I do want to say too, like, I do feel like a lot of the negative stuff we're saying is really probably just pertaining to this album. Because like a lot of the comments I was seeing on that video, some of which I read and some of which I didn't, were kind of indicating to me that some of the people who are big Deep Purple fans, they have maybe felt a little bit of disappointment the last 30 years of their career because they haven't been doing necessarily what they wanted them to do. And this album that we just happened to be our first Deep Purple album, maybe they're trying to do exactly what the blueprint for what we expect Deep Purple to be doing is this, because they're trying to emulate the blueprint that they drew 50 years ago. And for people who have been following them for this long, this is super special because it's doing exactly what they wanted them to do. But for us, they're doing exactly what we expect them to do. And there's nothing about it that is catching our attention or standing out in any way in particular. But right?
Yeah, like this is, what if this is their throwback album?
Right.
And like by virtue of doing that, they are evoking 1973 rock aesthetic, and that happens to be uninteresting. Whereas the previous album, or at least the one that you've got, Interrobang, which is what I've decided it will be called,
right,
is more interesting by virtue of being spooky.
Yeah, and I do find that to be way more interesting than this, just from what I remember. So, like, but also the mix.
We haven't made vanilla in 40 years, and here we're coming back with our classic vanilla.
I really think that the mix has so much to do with what we're talking about, and we might not be approaching it from that standpoint of our thoughts, of our thinking, but I really think that the fact that the drums just sound so much just like drums is to me a really big negative of this album. And the fact that the drums had no character, that to me is a big on the album, right? Then the fact that the vocalist would maybe be interesting and different and unique sounding when you put him in a box with all the other stuff we listen to, but when it's just a box full of him, I don't need that box. You know what I mean? Like, that box is less interesting because of that. And so, and I don't think there's anything wrong with what he was doing. In fact, I think the way that this album was made is very admirable for a lot of the reasons we mentioned at the beginning of the album. And I think that the decisions that they made were cool and the right decisions to make for them. And some of this is just our personal opinions and taste on music not being for us. But I also feel that there is something objective to say about this as well, about, what we've been trying to explain the whole time.
Which, and I thought I just had that you're going to love is like, let's say they were to introduce all of the elements that you're talking about to make them more interesting in their mix and all this other stuff. Are they still Deep Purple? Or have you just accidentally asked them to be a different band? And at what point does that crossover happen?
And that's kind of a crux of what we're talking about, because if that would be the case, then I would have to say I don't find Deep Purple interesting. Yeah. But if it just happens that this mix on this album,
right, which I don't happen to like this album versus this band. I
mean, if you just asked me, I would say right now, this album did not sound as good as this album.
Interesting. Okay.
Whatever Interrobang, right? To me, Interrobang, in my head, having not listened to it for a while, sounds better than, definitely more high frequency than this one, which is a tangible thing I could say. This album definitely lacks high frequency stuff in a lot of it.
Interesting, because it hit some pretty highs a couple of times, but yeah, huh.
Not in the drums where I think I wanted it, or it was lacking.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just call it. Are you good to call it?
Do you want to listen to the Smoke on the Water things? Because I don't really want to.
I say let's do that in a separate video sometime as more of a interesting audio thing.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll watcher of this video who's been here the entire time. Nobody.
You champion.
No. There's no way. No one did this. Not even Team Wolfie Soupy or Creeps or no one. No one in our Discord has watched this whole thing. And if you did, and you did truly watch this whole thing, you comment down below. But if you're some kind of sucker or sap who thinks that we are suckers and you just skip to the end and heard this part and you go comment, I watched the whole thing, I can check. Okay?
Yeah. What did I say 2 hours ago?
I can look at what every individual person who watched this video, how many minutes they watched and what part of the video they watched. That's not true. I can't do that. But
can you imagine the person who is putting so much work into just making sure that whatever's happening is they get it one up on us? Like,
no one cares that much about us.
No one.
I don't care that much about us. So. All right, we're going to end it here. Like Chris just said, I mentioned it in the middle of the video. If you just skip to the end, you're a big loser and you missed a bunch of great stuff. But we had talked about at some point in the video listening to the 2024 remaster of Smoke on the Water, or any song off of Machine Head. If you think that we should listen to a song other than Smoke on the Water, please let us know in the comments. But we had mentioned listening to the 2024 remaster, and then there's also a 2024 remix that was released on the same release, the 50th anniversary release of Machine Head. So we'll do that in a separate video, and if Chris Schoenberg was here for that, I think that would be fun for him to do as well, because we could talk more about just the technical mix side of everything. Mm-hmm. But we'll do that in another video at some point in the future. We've got it on our radar now, so we'll try to remember to do that as well. And if this video gets like 50,000 views,
that's a lot. That's a lot.
Then we'll do it sooner rather than later. So make sure to share this video with all your friends and your mother and your Deep Purple, fan base. Come on, Mr. Ian Pace or whatever your name is that's in this band who's watched this whole video, been just shouting at us the whole time. Please don't hurt me. And also, I respect everything
Thank
your
you
band's
for
done.
all you've done.
Thank you for all you've done. Make sure you share it on your socials. All right, everybody, thank you so much. We've had a great, fun time. Hopefully you did as well. We will see you next time.